All right, I think we should be live right now. Okay. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, one God, amen. Welcome everyone to Simple Orthodoxy. Today, I just wanted to provide a comprehensive overview of the history of interactions within the Apostolic Orthodox Communion between the Coptic, Syriac, Ethiopian, Armenia, etc. churches. This will also be a response to recent claims made by Cleave to Antiquity, Eastern Orthodox YouTuber who is actually only a catechumen. So I am blessed to be joined today by some amazing people of the Orthodox Church. Can you guys introduce yourselves for us?
My name is Anthony. You guys know me as Agan. My YouTube channel is Apostolic Orthodoxy. Simple Orthodoxy is a good friend of mine. He told me and Subdeacon about this, and of course we'd want to join and talk about the history of communions between our church, rebut some of the common accusations, and yeah, I'm excited for this one.
Thank you for having me, you guys. I'm honored to be in your company. Daniel Kakish. I have my channel that I'm not active on, so I'm happy to be here with you guys.
Right. So we actually also will be blessed to have Deacon Mehret, who will join on later, and possibly Abuna Lazarus. I put him in the thumbnail just in case he wants to join later. But so first of all, if it's okay with you guys, I actually want to begin with what sort of kicked it off. Cleave to Antiquity's claims on the Apostolic Orthodox Church. So let me just switch here and start streaming. All right, y'all can see my screen?
No, there's nothing.
Okay, bro. 1 second.
It's on the bottom. The press H. It'll let you share the whole thing.
Yeah.
Now we can see. Now we can see.
Should be good.
Yeah.
All right. Let's start here. I actually put the timestamp in the description right here. Okay.
We can hear it fine.
Okay. Let's make sure. You can hear it as well? Okay. Sounds good. All right, we'll put it at a decent 1.5. Get this going. All right.
Lord of mercy. They aren't even in synodal communion with anyone. They're only related to others who are anti-Chalcedonian. Yeah, that's true. And they weren't even really working together until the 1960s. 1965, there was a kind of meeting. It wasn't even really a council. It was a meeting of the different non-Chalcedonian churches, and they came up with the term Oriental Orthodox in 1965. It's a brand new thing. The fact that the understanding of these people being one church was not a thing until 1965. Let's see. We have a couple of super chats in here.
Okay, so I mean that's basically in this stream he sort of goes into Abuna Lazarus a bunch, and not just him but the entire Orthodox Church. So I prepared a little presentation on it. I want to sort of begin with, okay, so basically, are the Eastern Orthodox right in saying, okay, well, are they Orthodox, or did we just make this all up? Are we just scamming everyone, right? So first, let's look at the biblical basis for this. And actually, it goes back to the Old Testament, and where I think in Isaiah 19 to 20 and 23, it has this Bible verse right here. Agan, do you want to read it for us, and maybe we'll get into some of the commentary?
The slide isn't showing, but the verse, for those who don't know, in that day there will be an altar to the Lord in the midst of the land of Egypt, and a pillar to the Lord at its border. It shall be a sign forever. In Septuagint, the Greek says forever. And then verse 23 says, the Egyptians serve, there it is. The Egyptians will come and serve with the Assyrians. The Assyrians will come and serve with the Egyptians. So my thoughts off the get-go, this accusation cannot be true. Not because we're going to show the history. We're going to show the history. Not just because they're blatantly lying. but because there's a divine promise in the form of a prophecy. The prophecy was that in the beginning of Isaiah, the Lord enters Egypt, and it's perpetual altar, and it's a perpetual pillar to the Lord, but it's an altar that is shared by others, the Assyrians. So the accusation we aren't in communion is rebutted by the prophets themselves. That's just to deal with this accusation just from, a divine supernatural level. We'll also get into how the claim is unfounded just by taking a look at history. So yeah, Isaiah 19 is very quick, short. I've used this verse before for this accusation. The accusation cannot be true at a priori basis because the prophet says it's not true.
Yeah, thank you for that. And this is only supported by the church fathers here. If we can get into the first one here, St. Augustine pretty clearly talks about how the Church of Egypt is prophesied by Isaiah here, and he even condemns those who aren't in communion with what he calls the church of the whole world, which is in, again, reference to the Copts. So if you guys have any thoughts or you want to expound on this a little bit more, yeah, go ahead.
I always point out and somebody can please go after me, just the linguistic usage that the prophet makes, especially in the Septuagint, is indicative of our church. The word Coptic, it literally comes from the Greek word Aegyptos. That's where we get the word Copt. And the word Syriac, if you get into that subject, where does the word Syriac come from?
It comes from the word Assyrian.
Right. So just at a linguistic level, Augustine is talking about you have to be in communion with the Copts. Augustine is talking about the Copts that are in communion with the Syriacs. So this quote I always cite as well. It's in St. Augustine's work against the Donatists. Donatists were a schismatic group. And another person who writes about them is Optatus of Milevis. So, and anyone who writes against a schismatic will employ similar arguments as Augustine and Optatus, like St. Cyprian, basically arguing you have to recognize the one bishopric. You can't make your own bishop. Augustine makes a unique argument here. He makes an argument from the prophecies. He says Isaiah mentions an altar to the Lord in the midst of the land of the Egyptians. And everyone knows this is talking about Gentile worship. This is how God wants to signify worship of the Gentiles. Hippolytus says this. Egypt signifies the world. Eusebius says Egypt signifies the world. So if God chose the Egyptians to signify, Gentile Christian believers, why are you not in communion with the Egyptians? It's just, that's the argument he's making. If this is what the prophet wanted to show forth, the example of Catholicity, by not being in communion with the sea, you're not in communion with the church of the whole world, because that's the Egyptian church's role in the prophetic books, that it represents the world.
I wanna say this as like for the viewers, and if anyone from the other side is going to see too. For this catechumen who doesn't accept debates, because he's not allowed to accept debates because he's a catechumen. This is what he said, that he doesn't accept debates because he's a catechumen. Taking a role of a teacher of us, but he can't accept debates with people. So why don't you be a student then? Know your role, shut your mouth, and just learn. Don't talk about us because you don't know about yourself to be talking about us. You're a catechumen. Humble yourself, please. For us to even be addressing this question, and I'm happy we're doing this because we should have done it a long time ago, but for us to even be addressing the question of trying to prove that we've always been in communion is so silly and not historical, because their own scholarship doesn't make this argument. It's such a and the thing is these guys, they're Protestant who are trying to Easternize themselves, but they're still Western at the end. And they're thinking because the name Oriental Orthodox in English had something to do with 1965. Who cares about English? Who cares about what the West is calling us or not calling us? You're trying to say we weren't in communion. You just say it and you think you're a teacher because you have subscribers, but you're a catechumen. So now you're an authority on Oriental Orthodoxy. Like, what is this a reality? Are people delusional?
Yeah, that's excellent, Subdeacon. We'll get into cleave to antiquity some more, I think, after some of the historical part. But again, I think we have a little bit more to discuss when it comes to the Bible verses, because I think, you know, Jerome has a lot to say on this verse as well, right? I think here directly he's insinuating that the Assyrians, like Subdeacon said earlier, are directly the Syrians or the Syriac Orthodox of today at the time, and it even claims that all of these churches will come together in equal piety in monks, in their nations, in their churches. So if you, again, expound on this, please feel free.
Yeah. The claims of that we make. So first, I recommend anyone should read Jerome's commentary on Isaiah. It's very beautiful, especially Isaiah 19 sections. He has like 2 places, almost 3, where he comments on this verse. He says the same thing every time. He makes the same point as Augustine. This is about the world. But then other places he refers to the particular church in Egypt, and he does so in his epistles. He says, you know, finally when a region was condemned, he said, finally the Isaiah 19 prophecy is confirmed that there's an altar to the Lord in the midst of the land of Egypt. He's mentioning the specific priesthood of the Egyptians. He says in his commentary on Isaiah and his epistle to Pope Theophilus. He says the entirety of the West owes our deliverance to you. The prophecy is fulfilled. So in his commentary on Isaiah, he says the Assyrians here are the Syrians, and he mentions that it's the Syrian monks of his day, and that these are the Assyrians who are his handiwork. And I want to point out 2 things. Roman Catholics make the argument like that Rome can't fall because of its divine institution. That word isn't used in Scripture. The closest time it's used about the Assyrians here, his handiwork, their establishment. Secondly, when I make the argument, like from St. Augustine, you have to be communion with the Egyptians. This isn't because of any, particular promise to the Egyptian church. It's not like God designed the Egyptian church that's, a perpetual and can't fall. That's not what we mean. There's no like divine power or authority invested with Alexandria that's unique from other sees. The idea is when the prophet wanted to signify the world, he's using this see because as history itself will play out, the Egyptian church will function in this role. It'll be that church from the beginning until the end. Not because it was promised that way or it's uniquely invested with that authority, but it's just how history itself will play out. Like when Jesus Christ says about Judas, the Son of Man goes as it is written of him, right? Does that mean Christ is acting in a specific way, just forced to do so? No, it's just how history will play out, and that's how the prophecies saw it. The prophecies are seeing history as it lays out. Christ isn't forced to be betrayed by Judas. It's just that the prophet saw that Judas would betray him, right? So when Christ says the Son of Man goes as it is written of him, or I have to go here because such and such prophecy says so. Remember, the prophet is seeing something. It's not promising or investing such and such institution with this authority. Yet, God still uses this divine institution language of Assyria, which St. Jerome interprets to be the Syriac Christians of his day, who are in communion with the Coptic Christians, who he thinks in his day, the priesthood of the Egyptians, he specifically says it's the one of Pope Theophilus in his epistles.
So this is important. I'm glad we're starting from the Bible because right away it sets the precedent that the Church of God being in communion, because these are prophecies, right? These are prophecies. This isn't something that's happening in Isaiah's time that the Assyrians and the Egyptians are worshiping together, right?
Let me pause you, Subdeacon. Jerome says that specifically. If anyone even tries to say this is happening in Isaiah's day or it's about Antiochus in the Hellenic age, you're wrong. And he gives the receipts why. But go ahead.
This is he's prophesying about the church later. So right away it sets the precedent that if it's not us, if it's not the Oriental Orthodox Communion, it's no one, because there is no other communion that the Assyrians and the Copts, the Assyrians and the Egyptians were in communion this whole time. Just us. The Melkites in Egypt are Greek. They're not even ethnically Copts. The same with the Syrian ones. They're not Mesopotamian. They're not Assyrian. So the Syriac Orthodox are Mesopotamian. They're Assyrian people ethnically. The Coptic Egyptians are Egyptians. That's what, like you said, Coptic means Egyptian. So this communion only exists perpetually in our communion. It doesn't exist in any other option.
Right. Even if you try to take like the uniate groups, think about when those uniate sees were established. Extremely late. The prophecy says when the Lord enters into Egypt, that's when it's established, and it will be so forever. Right? It's a complete going. But with Rome, like take Egypt just for example, they've had like 4 attempts of making a Latin rite the Roman Church. Like they had it first with the Easterners after Dioscorus, up until they established the Latin vicariate. And then after that, they dissolved that for a Coptic uniate bishop, who then again became Coptic Orthodox after he established the uniates for them. He went back to us. So like they kept attempting. They've never had this natural unity of the Egyptians and the Assyrians from the beginning until now. They've had to have uniates, centuries late. And even then, like the concelebration, extremely rare, right? I know of like one instance where I could like genuinely think of a Coptic uniate with like a Syrian native uniate. Like never really happened. And even if it did, it's not that perpetual unity that,
Right. Like
Isaiah's talking about.
the Chaldean and Syriac Catholic churches were established in like the 18th, 19th century in their current form. The Coptic one was 20th century in its current form, Coptic Catholic. Like this is not what we're talking about. These were people who were on a branch of history that Rome had condemned. So their own lineage is a patriarchal continuity is not even recognized by Rome. It's not. They know themselves that they're placeholders. Like no one is even thinking about the uniates. That's not a rational person's argument. So, and the Byzantines can't argue that this would apply to them because they don't have an Assyrian church. They don't have a Coptic church. There's no native Egyptian and Assyrian part of the Byzantine communion.
Right.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah. It's always funny because I don't want to be too harsh, but we always joke around and say like, well, the Roman Coptic Catholics, what do they do when they get to Dioscorus? Do they just pause? Do they skip it over? This is like kind of a weird portion of our liturgy because you have a conflicting narrative, right? Like in a bunch of Coptic literature, and I won't spend much more time on this because we have a little bit to go, but in a lot of Coptic literature, we always refer to ourselves as Coptic Orthodox or as, Syriac Orthodox. It's not just simply like having the bloodline or having the location. It's being tied to the inherent church founded by the fathers. It goes back to having that complete line, that complete history. So excellent stuff, guys. I just want to keep moving along here. Dionysius Barsili basically echoes our points when he basically says all of this again. He says that in his time, the Assyrians, or the Syriacs of his day, agreed with the Egyptians in the faith. These enter Egypt, and out of Egypt come peace. So even here, they're talking about synodical letters and treaties and stuff that they would send back and forth. And it says, until this day, we agree with them and they with us. So it's this agreement of faith. It's not just, again, the location or, oh, we all name ourselves. No, they're clearly sending back correspondences, talking with each other and interacting with each other. Yeah. So let's get more into...
I want to add a point.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go back. So let's say they didn't agree with us on this prophecy. They threw Jerome, Augustine, Irenaeus, Hippolytus. They threw all those under the bus. Cyril, Eusebius, even Theodoret. Let's say you throw all those under the bus. The verse itself will still prove us. Why? Because it was appealed to centuries before 1965. So even if you disagree with the prophecy was being used by our fathers to prove we're in communion. That itself is a refutation. Even if you reject that's a prophecy, the fact we were citing this before 1965 shows we were recognizing each other as one church, one communion, one faith. I just wanted to add that quick point.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Actually, we've already like blown it out of the water when he says like, oh, pre-1965. But yeah, this is our first part. It'll be okay. Was there an Orthodox communion? Was there interaction? before the 1965 conference of Addis Ababa. So the first, very early on, we have Pseudo Zacharias Rhetor, who in his chronicle in 569 AD talks about Pope Timothy interacting with a party of Proterius. So we already have the Coptic Pope talking with the Indian, the church that came out of India, the Thomas believers, so the Indian Orthodox. They were sending back bishops and communicating on the faith. So very early on, this is like right after Chalcedon. Furthermore, we have Theodosius of Alexandria sending a synodical letter of Severus to Severus the Great of Antioch in the 6th century, where he says he affirms the same faith and is sending a letter that is called synodical. So in his letter, he's affirming that, okay, this is a letter from patriarch to patriarch, church to church, on this basis that our faith is both orthodox. So, and maybe Subdeacon, you want to expand on this a little bit. Directly after Chalcedon, the Copts and Antioch were like, they were like best friends, right? They were sending back messages back and forth between Severus, Theodosius, Dioscorus II, a lot of letters, right?
Yeah, I'm smirking because it says which by custom. So this, I was talking to Agan a while ago. We were talking about something else that he's gonna put out a future video on that I won't mention what it is.
Don't spoil.
Where they say by custom. So he's doing it here too. The Pope of Alexandria to the Patriarch of Antioch. This, you find this translation of the whole letter in Pauline Allen's book, Conflict and Negotiations.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's called, I think, Pope Theodosius of Alexandria's Confession to Saint Severus, to Patriarch Severus of Antioch. I think that's what it's referred to historically. It's a confession of faith where the Pope of Alexandria is giving a confession of faith to the Patriarch of Antioch.
Simple. When you type it, it makes a lot of noise.
Oh, sorry about.
Go ahead, Subdeacon.
He puts out a confession of faith in this letter, and he cites the 3 ecumenical councils. He cites the Henoticon. And if there, why is he doing this if we weren't in communion? It's really, I think, I'm at the point now where I'm starting to think that it's like some kids said it one time on Twitter or something, and then
that's literally what happened.
Yeah, that's what it is. They just kind of made up themselves, which is crazy. And then they have the audacity to be like, but they're the second best. What? Are we made up or are we the second best? I don't get it. So when they're doing this, it's like, okay, who were you guys fighting against for 1500 years?
Yeah.
If we weren't around, we just got together. So you were fighting against just random strays, or we were on one side? And then when you say they accuse us of welcoming the Muslims during the Futuhat, which is not true. But did we all plan to all welcome them together, and we were kind of just strays when that happened? It's crazy. There's so much I'm sure we're gonna go through it, but there's so much evidence. There's letters back and forth at the turn of the millennium, where we're talking about whether unleavened bread is okay or not, to the Armenian Patriarch, to the Coptic Patriarch, Syriac, back and forth. Everybody, we had joint synods. They tell us, which synods did you guys have? We had Manzikert. We had so many synods. I don't know what. I don't know if they read. I think they just kind of they stay up at night.
They read Twitter.
They can't sleep because we exist. So automatically they're triggered by our existence. And then they just kind of had to come around in 1965.
It's like Egan said, they only read Twitter and Jay Dyer videos. So those are my 2 primary sources. That's all I need.
I had a guest. I had a guest, I don't know, maybe it was a year ago or so on Lion's Den. And it was about another topic. But the guest said that the Assyrian Church of the East came around in 1976 or something like this. And I was so confused. And then what the guest meant is that they added, like they made the name in 1976. So these guys are confusing like themselves when there's okay, they came up with an English title. The non-Chalcedonians came up with an English title for themselves that they were always calling themselves the Orthodox Church, the Catholic Church. That's what we were officially referred to ourselves as liturgically. But for the Westerners, here's a name in English for your naming conventions, for your Western naming conventions. Here's one for you guys. That does not mean we didn't exist before we had to give you guys a Western naming convention.
Right.
Like,
I want to
silly.
point something out. Like, even with the 1965, let's pretend that's when we invented our church. How do we know who to invite? Like, we just pick some random people here and there. The people who rejected. There was something going on for centuries. I want to add 2 quick points on Pope Theodosius' letter. This is exactly how communion was pre 313. This is how you establish communion, by sending letters. But before 313, when Christians were being persecuted, right? There was no Nicaea yet. There was none of that. When you wanted to do something pan-Christian, you just each do it in a local synod and send letters to one another. Like, a good example is the Quartodeciman controversy. That was ecumenicity back then. You do your own local synod and just tell people about it. Send synodical letters back and forth. Someone wants to break communion with another group. We know from St. Irenaeus and other bishops, they would write to Pope Victor, right? It was through letters. Epistles are how you confirmed and denied when it happened, communion. The second thing I want to add, I forgot. Can you go back to Dionysius Bar Salibi? Something I forgot to mention. Like the slide, 2 slides before.
I might have to. Yep, there you go.
So on this slide, there's another thing we forgot to mention. He doesn't just cite Isaiah 19:23. He says right here, out of Egypt came envoys of peace, who bring good tidings by synodical letter concerning unanimity in faith. So there's 2 things here. It's the same thing going on. It's how you establish communion back then. It's through epistles, right? It's not always drinking tea at the same house. It's through epistles. That's how you establish communion in the one Holy Catholic Apostolic Church. Secondly, he's citing another verse from the Bible, Psalm 68:31, which is also about communion. Envoys shall come out from Egypt. Ethiopia will raise their hand to God. So before Ethiopia had autocephaly, when they were under us, we would send a primate over there. That's the envoys coming from Egypt, as it's interpreted by the early church. So I just wanted to add that as well. Communion before 313, right? Because the Constantine era, with Emperor Theodosius the First, the Second, that era is unique. It's not by like divine institution. That's just righteous men, who had sovereign control, working together with the church. That isn't the normative function of the church, that Constantine era, what we refer to as the Golden Age. There's a whole 313 years before Christianity was tolerated in the empire, where communion was through synodical letters, through epistles confirming communion. Hey, we just elected a new patriarch. Here's his name. Here's who you're supposed to commemorate. That's how communion was the first 300 years. And after we were starting to get persecuted again by the Chalcedonians, we reverted back to that form of communion. Like, these Byzantines think the way the church manifests its unity and its communion is through the Byzantine Empire. Really? Is that what Christ instituted? He said, "You are Peter, on this empire I will build my church." No, the church is primitive, whether there's an empire with you or not. And this is the practice the first 300 years. And for the centuries after, when we were being persecuted by Chalcedonians and the Muslims, this is how we would confirm our communion with one another. And I'm sure we'll show more and more evidence.
Yeah. That's an excellent point, actually. That goes back to the Council of Jerusalem, even in the Bible. They had a synod. They made this decree and they sent out letters to everyone to declare it, right? It wasn't just, okay, well, yeah, the emperor is called this gigantic holy council, and this is the council, and this is the Orthodox council. And if you don't call all of yourselves Byzantine Orthodox, you're not Orthodox. Because I think Cleve later says something like they call all of themselves Orthodox, but really they refer to themselves as Coptic. I don't really understand like how that works. Like, does he not understand there's like the church of the Copts, the church of Egypt, the church of Syria? Like, are we not supposed to subcategorize ourselves by like the tradition? It just a bunch. Yeah, it's like, yeah, subdeacons free. Like, it doesn't make sense, right? It's just a bunch of things, right? And we're even going to go into like the 1965 council as well.
You know what it is? So the early church, the primitive church was diverse, was very diverse, was diversity in communion, just like us. We have the same faith, but we have diversity in communion. That's how the primitive church was. What the Byzantines did is they forced conformity on everyone. So they have all of them the same rite, the same liturgy, the same everything. They're the same thing. So it's one monolith of like the Church of Caesar, or we're the Church of Christ. So um, this is why this concept is so foreign to them, because they have to Byzantinize everything. They had a mission in northwest Iran, where there was a significant Assyrian community before. It was Church of the East, and this is maybe early 20th century, late 19th century, like this. And the Assyrians that they converted, the Russians converted. They weren't allowed to keep any of their right. Like they didn't even try to un-Nestorianize them or something. And you guys could like kind of like what Rome did with the Chaldeans is that, you know, they didn't even try to do that. They just forced them to be Byzantine. This is what they are. So they just, when they see us being diverse, they think that's a lack of unity. But that's how the primitive church was, always.
Yeah. I want to
Yeah.
make a quick point. When I mentioned the Quartodeciman controversy, that's the exact argument Irenaeus uses. Pope Victor wanted conformity, went to celebrate Easter. Irenaeus verbatim says in his letter, the fact we do things differently proves the unity of the faith.
Yes.
That's his argument. That's verbatim what Irenaeus says.
Yeah.
The fact we do things differently proves that we have a unity concerning faith, unanimity concerning faith, that he's doing things how he inherited it from that apostle. He's doing things as he inherited it from this apostle. But nobody casts each other out. They send epistles of communion back and forth.
Yeah, and actually that's a really good segue into this quote right here, because you'll see a pattern between these. It's the common faith, the common Orthodox faith. You know, John of Ephesus, in this quote, he's talking about the Byzantines tried to sort of convince the Antiochians to sort of like come over. It's like, oh, just join the Chalcedonian side. We'll send you a bunch of gifts and make you rich. And here it says, no, we won't accept your faith, because we're not going to reject the faith of Pope Theodosius, or the Coptic Pope at the time, who was on account of his faith sent into exile because he wasn't willing to submit or accept. So again, it's not just okay, like, we're all sharing persecution, but we're all sharing our common faith, which we were persecuted for. Let's sort of move on here because we got a decent amount of quotes to go through. Here, from the Catholicos of Armenia, he sends a letter to the Persians, or the Syriacs, the Church of Antioch at the time, talking about how Simon, a Syriac priest, had he was in great communication unanimously with the Armenians, with all of the different, the Georgians and the Albanians who were in communion with the Armenians at the time. And again, they were sending letters, and Simon was actually like going there over into Armenia and communicating with them. So there was actual representation between the two. I think here, the Deacon, we're gonna let Deacon on real quick. Deacon Mehret.
Hello, Deacon Mehret.
Oh, he's gone.
You got annihilated.
There we go. We're in communion again. What's up, Deacon?
Good.
The brown cult is complete.
Hello, my brothers. How are y'all?
How you doing, brother?
What's up, Deacon?
Sorry. Thank God.
So, Deacon, we're just going through some of the history of the communions and the interactions between, obviously our churches, the Coptics, the Copts, the Syriac Orthodox, Indian Orthodox, etc., Armenians. So yeah, here they sent this letter, and if we move on even furthermore, we have another. And by the way, if you're noticing the times, I made sure to leave in the times here. Not a single one of these is like post 1965. This is all early, all very, very early, right after Chalcedon. again, we have here, and this is super interesting. Like, I love this. I wish Abuna Lazarus was here with us, because he's kind of like the theological mastermind when it comes to communion. But this is a story of which a Syriac priest gave communion to the very, very last day of an Armenian martyr. So like here it was so natural for us, like as brothers and sisters, to be in faith, and we were constantly interacting with each other and being with each other and giving communion to each other, which, like, communion is the body and love, it's life of Jesus Christ himself. So this is a big thing, right? It's not just we give communion to anyone, but we give it to those who share our faith. So I thought this was a super cool, like, story of early on interaction between Armenians and the Syriacs. I think if we move on here, this is a confession from an Armenian scholar, or I think a bishop at the time, talking about who is the Orthodox. Like, he's referring to who are the Orthodox of the time. So this is in 980 AD, still very early on, or right before the medieval era. He's talking about the Syrians, who are the Jacobites, the Egyptians, the Ethiopians, Arabians, which I assume he's referring to the Syrians or the Syriacs, and the entire realm of India, so the St. Thomas Christians, and all these who do not accept the Council of Chalcedon, right? So this is contingent on you are anti-Chalcedonian, because obviously it contradicts the faith of the fathers before them. So and it refers here, they all have their various distinctions and their own religious customs, which do not divide us, right? Just because we have our own separate locations, our own traditions, these do not divide us in faith whatsoever. So moving on here,
I just want to add real quick how small our burden of proof is because of the nature of autocephaly. The St. Thomas Christians, you could say, from their inception is under Antioch. With the Ethiopians and the Eritreans, they were always under the Copts. All we have to do, our burden is just to show unity between three C's. And it's technically, that's why we have like three rites in the church: Alexander Rite, the Syriac Rite, and the Armenian Rite. We just have to show correspondence between those three, because it contains the Indians, Ethiopians, Eritreans. And here, I didn't even know they were mentioned by name here. This is news to me that he even mentions Ethiopia, those in India. I didn't even know this, but it just goes to show, like, our burden is so small, but we're even showing you further than that.
It's and there was a lot of crossover too. Like, we were aware of each other. So, like, for example, it says Arabia here is because of the Arabian tribes in Arabia, actual Arabs who were us. So like, you had this in Yemen, Najran area, even though jurisdictionally they were under Antioch, but because of their proximity to Aksum and the Habasha, the Abyssinians, they were like taken care of a lot by them, even though they were jurisdictionally under us. So there was a lot of this stuff going on, and everyone knew. Like, it's not like when this stuff was happening, like, the others wouldn't know about it. No, it was fairly decent, like, communication for the circumstances, like, under persecution, under occupation, under all the different empires and things. All of this is going on, yet we're still aware and cooperate.
beautiful. Yeah. I think we're just gonna keep moving along here. Here, from the History of the Patriarchs of Alexandria, which is an excellent Coptic historical book. I've read a bunch of it. It talks about, again, like, you see here, like, the priests and the deacons and the bishops, they're constantly going over to the other communions, the other like churches. Like, Indian will go to like a Armenian church, or Armenians will go to a Coptic church. So this was only natural. It's not like we were just kind of doing our own thing, and then one day we're like, oh, hey, look, there's an Armenian dude. Oh, hey, look, there's an Ethiopian dude. Let's go, like, have a liturgy, right? It was purposeful. It was meaningful. And he talks about how they're constantly sending information of the affairs to India. So they're constantly updating each other on the status of the church. They're keeping in touch. So again, just because even when we started undergoing intense persecution, that didn't break our communion. That didn't break our communication. We were still communicating by letter, communicating when we could. Maybe it became a little bit more sparse some years, some decades, but it doesn't break it just because. And this is a very sad part of the online apologetic scenes. Just because you're ignorant of a fact doesn't mean it's true. Like, for example, Cleve was like, oh well, I've never heard of them having communion before 1965. That means they never had communion, right? It's this weird argument from silence. So moving on here as well, we have this Dr. Otto Mendras, who wrote a gigantic book on the history of Coptic Christianity, talks about the relocation of the relics of Saint Severus from one monastery to another. So he from a monastery, and I think it's in Antioch, to the monastery in Egypt. So like how amazing this is, that these churches were in such close touch, in such close trust and communion, that they were just even sharing the relics of their holy saints. Saint Severus is, like, as you all know, one of the greatest saints of the Orthodox Church, right? The lion, right? So keep moving on here. We have here, this is a really cool feature, actually. The Syriac Patriarch baptized the son of the Armenian emperor in an Armenian city. So again, like, it's not only just letters, this vague communication. There are actual events where we would participate with each other. We were living as one. It's exactly like the Bible says. Like, we're one body. We're one body of Christ, with Christ at the head, right? The location doesn't separate us, nor does persecution, nor does time. So here next,
we have, guys.
What was it?
I said it's a psyop.
Yeah, it's a psyop. Yeah. it's a whole, yeah, this whole thing it's government misinformation.
That's all.
Here as well, the consecration of a Syriac Orthodox bishop was in a church of the Armenians. So the Armenian Orthodox were present at the time. So again, consecrations are another sort of ecclesiastical event in which the bishop is being ordained in the presence of the Armenians. So the Armenians are participating with the Syriacs. Again, there's this communication, interaction at a high level and a low level. It doesn't matter. And constantly they're referring, Barabreus, a great saint, he's referring to them as their brothers and sisters, his brother and sisters. Constantly this communication back and forth. Here as well, now we see the Copts referring to the Armenians. So the Copts are saying here, the Patriarch of Armenia preaches the gospel to his people who are in Egypt. And although they are few, they've had one bishop after another until now to instruct people in their traditions and language. And they believe in the true faith that was conferred by Enba Severus and Enba Dioscorus. So again, and by the way, Severus isn't a Coptic saint, right? He's actually a Syriac patriarch who came to Egypt. So in and of itself, Severus proves our communion. Like, Severus was a Syriac patriarch on the run from Chalcedonian persecution who dwelled in churches of Egypt. So there was extreme ongoing communication. But after he died, go ahead.
On Severus alone, like in his patriarchate, like there's like 2 or 3 instances of letters from the Patriarch of Alexandria after they die, and the next one, all sharing communion with him, recognizing his communion and him recognizing their own. It happened all the time between Anastasius and Athanasius, Egypt and Alexandria, Egypt and Antioch. These two specifically were always in communion, especially because of St. Severus's impact. Like, St. Severus's impact is what would stampede it. If you wanted to show you were in communion, we recognize St. Severus's faith, what he's teaching, what he's writing about. So I want to add something about what we're noticing in all these documents, the common theme. The common theme of unity is that they hold the true faith of the non-Chalcedonians, meaning the first 3 councils, they don't innovate for the 4th one. So if someone wanted to ask, like, when is that moment in which the Oriental Orthodox is made one church? It's simple. In 33, by Jesus Christ.
Mhm.
Is Jesus Christ who established it? Even like hypothetically, if none of the people knew they were in communion, they would be, on the basis that they hold the same faith from of the three ecumenical councils. They just never innovated. But on top of that, they do know they're in communion with each other. But even if they didn't, this argument fails because we all have in common that recognition of three councils, that movement from apostolic age until the third council, not accepting the fourth, and continuing in human history. And on top of that, they recognize communion with each other.
So when Peter sent Mark to Egypt, Mark is teaching the Egyptians the Byzantine liturgy. No, it's the native liturgy. Yeah, the Coptic one. Mar Edde and Saint Peter. By the way, the last patriarch who celebrated a liturgy in St. Peter's in Antioch, it happened in the 90s, was the patriarch before the current one for us. He went to the side of the border. Antioch's on the Turkish side of the border from Syria. So he went there. He did the liturgy in St. It was a huge deal because it hadn't happened in a long time by anybody, like maybe 1,000 years. So when Saint Peter was in Antioch, Saint Paul was in Antioch, when Saint Edde was in Edessa, what liturgy were they doing? Was it the Byzantine or the native one? In our liturgies today, someone's saying it in the chat. It's they said we venerate. I think it's Coptic. Saint Severus is in our diptych, of course. But today, right now, we commemorate each other's patriarchs in the liturgy. So the Coptic liturgy, you will hear the Patriarch of Antioch's name. You will hear the Eritrean Patriarch's name. In ours, you're going to hear the Coptic Pope's name. So the Byzantines don't do that. If you go to a Byzantine liturgy, if the priest is the celebrant, you will only hear the local bishop. If the bishop is the celebrant, you'll only hear the patriarch for that one patriarch. But us, even if it's just a priest doing the liturgy, you'll hear the other patriarchs we're in communion with, because that's the primitive model. You see this in even apostolic constitutions.
Clement of Rome.
Yeah.
Clement of Rome. As early as 1st century.
Right.
And also, I think, just to add something here, the liturgical diversity is really, really important because, especially like you were making of the Byzantine liturgy, to my knowledge, that's the only liturgical rite that's present amongst the Greeks. And when I say Greeks, that includes also Eastern Europeans, Russians, and all that. There's only one liturgical rite. And I've seen some people, I think, without education, kind of brag about that as if it's a strength. You know, if I go anywhere in the world, it's the same rite. Meanwhile, you guys are disorganized. And I don't think they understand that works against them. So the idea of liturgical diversity is actually emblematic of what the original church looked like. So if you go to Milan, there's going to be a different liturgical rite that Ambrose would celebrate compared to if you went to Alexandria, compared to if you went to Antioch, so on and so forth. They all had different liturgies out there celebrating. So you see that liturgical diversity being maintained. And before I hear anyone from the Latin side saying, well, we have liturgical diversity too. No, you took liturgical diversity from us. It's not organic. It was added later, right? The only church that has a continuous, unbroken line of liturgical diversity the whole time is the Oriental Orthodox Church. With the Latins, you only have the Latin rite, and then later on, when they like colonize, these different other places, then they added in. Here's the Coptic liturgy. Hey, Ethiopians, you want to be Catholic? Here's the Ethiopian liturgy. But the one that's uncontinued, it's always been, is the Oriental Orthodox Church, and that's emblematic of the visible church. One last thing, I'm just trying to make up for the 30 minutes I was late. Another thing I want to mention here, and Egan, I think, what's that?
I said as much as you want, brother.
Go ahead, Deacon.
The other thing also I wanted to mention here, and Egan already said it beautifully, but like people really need to put this through their heads, is the burden of proof is not on us to show communion. It's on those that added, right? If you add something to what already exists, the default is already the pre-existing thing. So it's on you to prove like, oh, I added this, you added this, we both added the same thing, right? So we call ourselves non-Chalcedonians simply to show that we didn't receive Chalcedon. But in a more affirmative or cataphatic sense, we can just say we're Orthodox. We already had the 3 councils they accept. We didn't add anything or subtract anything. So we're the default, right? If anyone didn't do anything and you just maintain the status quo, then that by definition makes you part of the one church. So I think it's good that we're doing this for people that might be a little weaker in faith, and maybe they're buying the things that other apologists are making. But I think we could easily turn it on our heads and respond to these people like, well, you're the ones that added it, so it's on you, right? If they don't send a letter confirming that they affirm Chalcedon, then they're the ones that are not in communion with one another. But we don't even have to do this. Like, this is superfluous. Like, it's not even needed. I think it's divine providence that we have all these evidence so that there's no type of debate. But we wouldn't even need to send letters confirming that we rejected Chalcedon. Insofar as we're silent about it, that's it. It's a default. I think that just
there's a lot of deflection. You hit the nail on the head, Deacon. There's a lot of deflection from them. Everything that's true about them, they say it about us. Like I obviously I'm not going to get into this, but like the whole Christology thing where they say Christ is a divine person only, and then they claim that we're the Monophysites here. Or then the whole thing with, they're just a bunch of non-Chalcedonians who, had that in common, so then they got together, whatever. If I say Chalcedonian, there's like a bunch of options. If I say Diophysite, there's even more options. If I say Eastern Orthodox, there's a lot of options. Am I Constantinople? Am I Moscow? Am I true Orthodox? Am I genuine Orthodox? Am I Matthewite? Am I old believer? They're like the Protestants. I'm telling you guys. Like, please, everything you guys say is a joke. Keep it to yourselves. Don't embarrass yourselves. You guys are getting this stuff off of Twitter from some like kids that have super white names, and then you just think it's true. And there's no basis or any historical evidence for anything.
Yeah, those are all amazing points. I think Mehret's point is really, really good, and it's a special problem with what we call the Ortho Bros. And I'll just do a quick point before we move on. But most of the Eastern Orthodox apologists say we are right because they're not. Like, for example, the Catholics have this Augustinian theology and it's wrong. Okay, say like the Catholics are wrong. How does that make you right? Say the Oriental Orthodox are wrong. How does that make the Eastern Orthodox right? Just because we're wrong, it doesn't make you right, right? We could still go say, okay, why don't we go to the Protestants? Why don't we go to the Catholics, right? There's no evidence. It's just, okay, let's just eliminate as many options as possible without dealing with the problems of Eastern Orthodoxy. So again, like Daniel said it perfectly, it's deflection, it's projection. It's like, okay, no, don't worry about, we're good. We're all Chad, Sigma. Just look at the Oriental Orthodox. They got a bunch of like weird looking people over there, right? So
look,
like
they have, so the Roman Catholics, they have the Sedevacantists. They have Pope Pius Society. They have these groups, right? You ask all of them, are you guys Roman Catholic? They say yes. All of them say yes. They're not in communion. If you ask Father Joseph Sweden, who I actually like him. If you ask him, are you Eastern Orthodox? He'll say yes. He's not in communion with the Ortho Bros. They can't stand each other, or at least they can't stand him. So it's everything they're saying about us is true about them. Like, if you ask someone if they're Oriental Orthodox and they say yes, and we are in communion together, there's no factions that are like, extremist groups or fringe splinters or different forms of Miaphysitism that we have to kind of deal with. We don't have this. They have, when they all signed the Pope Hormistus thing, and now they went back on it. And then there's the Assyrian Church of the East Diophysitism. There's all of this stuff going on with them. Huge mess. Here we are, pretty simple and like compact and in communion, and then they're making us like we're the randoms. It's crazy. It's really crazy.
Yeah, just for the sake of time, we got to keep moving here. Okay, so Saint Dionysius Bar Salibi, we quoted him before. We'll quote him again. In his time, he was outspoken against the Melkites or the Melik, or the people of the king, which often was referred to as the Byzantines or the Chalcedonians. He says that us, the Syrians, the Egyptians, the Nubians, who were under the Egyptians, and that is to say the Indians, and the peoples of their neighborhood, such as the Cushites, the Abyssinians, or the Ethiopians of this day, cross themselves with one finger. So again, the one finger, the one nature of Christ, right? This is to again show this union in faith. We all have this one natured Christology, which goes to even before the Council of Chalcedon, the early fathers. And he says, okay, you guys all do it with two fingers. That is not that's not the original way. Again, he says here as well, he refers to another issue of faith in which we are unified, the Trisagion, which is like holy God, holy mighty, holy immortal, right? We all say that this refers to the Son. And this is actually, this is an issue for another stream, but the Chalcedonians have this thing where they avoid referring the Trisagion to Jesus Christ because it kind of nukes their whole Christology. So they have to like do a bunch of things. They're like, okay, we can't talk about this, right? If we say God's crucified, that's weird. That's too weird. So anyway, this says here that we, the Syrians, we, the Armenians, Egyptians, etc., we all are unified in this faith and are unified in this liturgy. Like, again, our liturgical practices at their core are completely the same. And that tells you a lot. It's like what Deacon was saying earlier. We all have our own traditions, but if you look at the core of the setup between, like, for example, a Coptic liturgy and an Ethiopian liturgy, you'll have the same four setups, right? The offertory, offering of the lamb, the readings, the liturgy of the faithful, right? All of this is the same. So it's beautiful. Location, cultures, these things are just meaningless in Christ.
One thing I want to just lay out here.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Deacon, please.
No, go ahead, please, Daniel.
Deacon, you're a deacon. I'm subdeacon. Go.
No, please,
Go
go.
for it.
It says
All right, bro.
Antiochus, in the order of preeminence.
No. Please,
Yeah.
please, Deacon.
Deacon, you
Emphasis
haven't been
the
on
sub.
too long. Go ahead, Deacon. Go ahead.
I just wanted to mention, you were speaking about, again, liturgical, like the idea of the liturgical rites having, even though distinctions, unity in certain things. I think the Trisagion is really, really key because obviously, like, there's the anachronistic argument that it's to the Trinity comes up, even though we all know in the actual context of Chalcedon and the immediate aftermath, it was because they didn't believe God could die, right? But I think it's so interesting, that argument, the anachronistic argument, because they concede in their own description of where the Trisagion came, that it was a hymn sung by Nicodemus when they were burying Christ. So they themselves concede that it was Christological. They all say it. The Byzantines say this, that the Trisagion was sung by Nicodemus when they were burying Christ. So why would you sing something, a hymn to the Trinity, while you're burying the body of Christ? Makes no sense. And about liturgical, conciliarity, I think it's very, very important to note, even though this is not the Trisagion, the Nicene Creed, the first time it enters the liturgy, prior to even the Byzantines, I think, adding it, is we're the ones that added it conciliarly, right? In 475, which is a council attended by multiple sees after Chalcedon, and we decide that we're going to have this thing that we all hold in common, where we're going to profess the faith as a creed, right, in the liturgy. So I think this also just shows the strength of our unity, even amidst different liturgical rites.
100%. Like you were saying, simple. The word Melkite, and you made the connection with the word Melik. That's exactly right. In the Syriac, Melikaya or Melikaye. So anything that ends this way. So if I was to talk to you like Egyptians, I would call you Qabtaye. You're Coptic. So for the Melkites, we're calling them Melikaye. It means what? They follow the king. They're the king's people. This is how they were identified. So they were even as an institution, it was more so imperial interests. It wasn't about you see, the church obviously existed before the empire, in the sense of like the Christianization of the empire, I should say. So that we are functioning as we always have. Before the empire was Christian, after the empire was Christian, when the empire wasn't there anymore. But they are functioning as a vestige of the empire. That's the difference.
I wanna add a point. The church is a building. Each one of us has to ask the question, what is the cornerstone? What sounds more like a cornerstone? The confession that Christ is one and indivisible. And despite you being persecuted and killed for this confession, you maintain it. Or does it make more sense? The cornerstone is a unity between some church entity and some empire entity on the confession Christ is two, and that you're the one doing the persecuting. What sounds more like a symbol of unity, an establishment of unity? The one who confesses Christ is one, or the one who their whole identity is built on the empire and its way it functions with the church and convening ecumenical synods and any synod in general? The empire is involved. He gathers everyone. You need the Romans with you. You can't do anything without the pentarchy. What sounds more like a foundation of unity? Who is your cornerstone? You have to ask yourself that question.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. I wanted to get some more into that but I think even our Christology informs our ecclesiology, right? Like we have the one body with the one head. We're all in unity, right? There is no different. It's just the one Christ, the one body of the church. Where for them, I kind of imagine it as a floating head talking to the body. The head's going to order you, and now the body has to make a council. Right, the body has to get its act together, so it's separate. They're two-natured idea. That's kind of a simplistic way to put it, but that's how I'm seeing it right now from like their polemical side at least. But let's keep going here because we got a bunch left to go through. This is a Syriac manuscript from the 14th century on the life of Saint Philoxenos, who talks about the nomination, the vote for the nomination of Severus, extended all the way from Antioch and all of Syria to as far as India, right? So India, again, back then was under the Patriarchate of Antioch, but this just shows how far and how unified they were at the time, to where they were all like, okay, this is our patriarch, or this is our faith. We're all united in this vote, in this belief. Here, this is a really cool fact. The Armenians have a bunch of gold mines that I found here. During the 14th century, obviously, I think someone mentioned it earlier, I think it was Deacon Meher, the Catholics, the Roman Catholics to be exact, went in and they just tried to force convert us. They were like, oh, hey, Copts, become Roman Catholics. Here, they tried the Armenians. They were like, Dioscorus, forget that guy. Like, don't feast about him. And then the Armenians, to spite them, celebrated 3 feast days that year for Dioscorus alone. So these are the Armenians putting feast days in their calendar just for a Coptic saint. So Dioscorus is Coptic, not Armenian, right? So that's a really cool fact there as well.
I want to add something.
Yeah, go ahead.
The Chalcedonians always call our founder, our head, Saint Dioscorus. Okay? So if you're non-Chalcedonian, he needs to be your head. Thank you for admitting we have a unity, whether you like it or not. Right? Like, which one is it? Is he our founder and our head and our rock? You are Dioscorus. On this rock I will build my church of non-Chalcedonianism. Like, which is it? Like, even when you throw that projection, because that's all it is. Even when you throw that projection, it's like like that arcade game, right? Where you whack-a-mole, you hit one, another one comes up. That's how their arguments are. Which is it? We've had no union, or Dioscorus is the founder of the Armenian schismatics? Dioscorus is the founder of the Indian schismatics. Dioscorus is the founder of the Syriac schismatics. Which is it? What's the argument?
This guy, the catechumen, he later on in that stream, I think, or the following one, I think that one, he tries to make fun of our icons.
Yeah, I have that. We'll get to that later. Yeah. So we're gonna go through the history and then we're gonna speed run through those like silly arguments.
Yeah. And by the way, we're like, he calls us all Coptic. Like he said, the Coptic subdeacon called me a bird.
I saw your YouTube comment. It was like, I'm Syriac, bro.
I'm Syriac.
I think Dyer called
what is he thinking? Sorry, we're not all Byzantine, man. It was that we have a different thing.
They would call
Coptic or in communion together. It's 2 C's.
They call me that too.
Yeah, that's what I was
gonna say.
The deacon Coptic. The Coptic.
No. I
love
think
the Copts, but please be educated or shut your mouth.
No, I think Egan, you might have been about to bring this up, but Dyer was like, he was just like, yeah, they're basically all Kenyans. They got that Kenyan Wi-Fi. They're all. I think he's talking about the Ethiopians or something. He's like, he's kind of like mixing it with some racism. He's like, oh, they're the Kenyans. They don't have water, Wi-Fi, or something. I don't know what he's talking.
So then
about.
Moses the Black, who they venerate, he was Kenyan.
I mean, Athanasius was referred to as a small dark elf, right? Like, is it just about the skin color? Like, I don't understand what's going on
they're
here.
not they're Protestants who are Easternizing. They're not Eastern. They think what's his name has Arian in his bio. What's his name? The guy Mario Luigi.
Mario and Luigi.
He has Arian in his bio. Like, what is this? Is it some kind of white supremacy thing for you guys? Like, it's weird.
I don't know. It's whatever, but we got to keep going. Here in a Syriac manuscript in Lebanon, it talks about how the Jacobites, who here usually sometimes it's referred to as the entire Oriental Orthodox, you'll just call them Jacobites, but here it's referring to the Syriac or Syriac Orthodox, talking about welcoming the Ethiopians and shared with them their own place dedicated to a saint. So they were all like, venerating a saint in this time, and making different styles of frescoes or like icons on these pottery, and this coexistence happened during it all the way until the end of the 16th century. So again, it's a culture share here, but it's all in the religious context.
Can I add one thing really quick here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just really quick. There's a great researcher called Dr. Mahadi Warqu. He's a deacon also in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, and he specialized in Ethiopian and Syriac studies, and he has a lot of, I think, evidence to point to the belief that the Syriacs at some point visited Ethiopia, like bishops, representatives that came to Ethiopia, and had dialogues with some of the people there, he has. I'm not going to get into details because I think he hasn't published anything yet about it, but he has some presentations about it that are really interesting, including that during some of the periods in time where the Egyptians were under an Islamic caliphate and were unable to send bishops, that the Syriacs would help out with ordinations and things like that in order to preserve continuity. So this idea that the Ethiopians came to Syria is the first time I've heard of that, which is amazing. But I also have heard of documentation and evidence to point that the Syriacs came to Ethiopia.
Yeah. This was actually a time because it was during the persecution. The Maronites sometimes, the Maronites are like some of these different cultured type of Catholics. From their military power and support from Rome, they would just actually kick us out sometimes. So something we gloss over during the Crusades, that the Catholics weren't we're all Christian. No, they were saying anyone who wasn't Roman Catholic, you're getting killed, murdered, or kicked out. When they came to Egypt, sometimes they would just confuse the Copts or the actual Egyptians with Muslims, and they would just kill them all. Okay, just steal St. Mark's. They stole St. Mark's relic from us. Like, some Copts are confused. Like, why did Pope Tawadros have to get St. Mark's body back from Rome? It's because in the medieval ages, they stole it from us. They snuck it out in pigs because the Muslims aren't going to search pigs because of pork and all that, right? So they stole it from us because they thought, okay, these are heretics.
The Syriac, the tradition that Deacon Meher is talking about, that what the Syriacs going to Abyssinia, the same tradition also exists for Armenia and Georgia too, that Syriacs went there, as well as Egypt. So all of these areas have this same thing of this back and forth happening. And that also speaks to the point of what we're trying to say here.
I was muted. So moving on here, this is actually kind of one of the funnier quotes. So again, we discussed earlier, the Roman Catholics constantly sent legates and representatives to each of the Oriental Orthodox, trying to convince them to become Roman Catholic. And here it says that they were actually kind of confused because they thought we were all divided, people with their own sort of cultures and language, but we kind of claimed Christianity vaguely. So here it's saying how the Catholics with a papal ecclesiology didn't understand our horizontal or our ecclesiology across all rites, across all traditions worked, how we were in unity. And even the Syriac Patriarch himself, if he were to submit to Rome against the wishes of the Coptic and the Armenian leaders, it was saying, like, say this were to happen, say the Syriac Patriarch were to become Roman Catholic, he would have been deposed instantly, because that's how unified they were. It's not just, okay, this patriarch's doing his own thing. It's all three of these communions, Armenian, Coptic, and Syriac, work in unison. If one resists and denies, their own people recognize, oh, what, something's wrong. Wait, the Copts and
happened before. Yeah.
Yeah.
It happened before, where patriarchs in history would have a erroneous theological view and would be deposed immediately. Yeah.
Honestly, it's amazing. Here we have a quote from another scholar talking about the history in India. So there was I think it was so this was a Syriac archdeacon, Syriac or Indian Orthodox archdeacon, who would write secretly to the Coptic Patriarch of Alexandria and the Jacobite Patriarch of Antioch, because, again, he was being persecuted by Roman Catholics at the time. So, again, like, he realized that he, not only his own patriarch, but he could write to the Copts as well. So there was no idea of division or this small separation in cultures means anything. We're all one. We're all unified.
I want to add a point. I want to add a point. The Peter and Damien issue, ironically, because of their problems they had with each other, is a proof of unity. Because what did their successors find it necessary to do? Fashion a pact of reunion, right? The fact they're beefing each other and break communion and re-enter communion.
Communion was there.
Exactly.
And they're both canonized by us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think we've more than shown the burden of proof and went beyond it. But I mean, honestly, let's keep going, because I know Deacon Merit said this stream is useless, but I mean, I'm just happy to be here.
No. This is no, not at all.
I'm joking. I know what you meant.
I'll be right back.
Okay.
But one thing I'm going to mention, for people that are curious about the whole Syriac and Ethiopia, we all know the 9 saints from like the 6th century. But in addition to that, there is a great paper by a Ethiopian historian called Addis talking about Ethiopia in the 1200s and 1300s. And it talks about correspondences between Ethiopia and Egypt, with Ethiopia basically notifying Cairo that in the absence of, because the caliphate is trying to stop the bishop, they've received a metropolitan from Syriac to help out and getting their blessing to be able to do it. So it's not that we broke off in defiance, but letting them know. So this is a 3-way party thing. And you can find it in this book called Church and State of Ethiopia. And there's also another great research paper by the Georgia's Encyclopedic Dictionary of the Syriac Heritage that talks about proof for this correspondence with the influx of Aphrahat, Ephraim, Jacob Syriac literature being translated to Ge'ez during these times. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah. And again, I'll be posting these slides with the video. I know some people are asking for some of the sources. And Deacon, if you want to comment under some of the sources that you're finding as well, that would be amazing. Here we have a talk or a quote from the attestation of the Indian Orthodox in communion with the Armenian Orthodox as well. So even between India and Armenia, which isn't usually a connection, most people think oh wait, how are these two connected? These were sending letters. The Catholicos was he had to know that there was churches existing there and what the orientation was and what's going on over there. So even the Armenian Catholicos took measures to know that, okay, these Oriental Orthodox, how can I help them? Can we still communicate over there? Can we send our representatives over there? So again, even all throughout history, it never stopped. As well, we have, again, another scholar saying the same thing. There is a tradition. I think Deacon Mehret or Subdeacon mentioned it earlier. There was a consistent correspondence from Armenia, or from Syria to Armenia, I'm sorry, talking about the influences they had on each other. So they have massive influences on each other, not only liturgically, but even traditionally, sometimes in language. And I think I have a few sources coming up here, maybe a few after, but this talks about the Syriac influence on forms of Armenian Christianity, not only in terms of theology and practice, but culture and language. So you'll have similar words, similar names for things, similar ways of practice within their monasticism and hermeticism. So we were in such close bonding with each other that we actually started to affect each other in all parts of life. We became as one body, one unit. When a man and a woman get married, right? And this is the example in Mark used in the Bible, right? When a man and a woman get married, they become one. And there's this joke that some people say, "Oh, well, you look like your wife," because they're in such close contact, they're in such close unity that they're actually beginning to be just like each other, right? With not while enveloping each other. But there's another one here. This is a very interesting point. There is a Syriac service in Turkey, this was in the 19th century, who spoke Armenian and are familiar with Turkish. So there were Syriac Orthodox in such close contact that they would just start doing, shared liturgy. Like we're really big into shared liturgies nowadays. They had shared liturgies back then in Armenia and in both languages.
Yeah, the Syriac people who lived in Edessa. Edessa was just emptied in the genocide 100 years ago. Before that, there were a lot of my people living there. But the Syriac people who lived in Edessa, when this is being written, they didn't speak Syriac as their common tongue. They spoke Armenian. Armenian was their tongue. It's crazy. So this is how close everything was. In Egypt, there is Der Syrian. What is it called? The name? St. Mary?
Monastery of the Syrians, right?
That's what we call it. But I think you guys have a saint's name on there. I think it's St. Mary. I'm not sure. So we call it Monastery of the Syrians. Der Syrian. There's Syriac everywhere in the monastery.
We call it the same, actually. We call it Der Syrian.
So why is that there? Why do we have a monastery in Egypt? Why are all of us, even the Abyssinians, why are all of us in Jerusalem? Why is this the whole thing is like one big bridge? We're all mixed in everywhere in all of these places. But
that's the prophecy.
1965.
That's the prophecy, right? Yeah. We start at the beginning. It mentions the physical place of Egypt. It says there will be a highway between Egypt and Assyria. The Egyptians go to the Assyrians and serve. The Assyrians go to the Egyptian and serve. It's a fulfilled prophecy.
But in 1965, though.
Yeah, it fulfilled a little too late.
It's a psyop.
No, we were just pretending. And in 1965, we were like, okay, these people, they're about the same shade of skin color, so let's just go with them.
In the 60s. The hippies created Oriental Orthodoxy.
For sure. Okay, next here, it's more emphasis on this connection between the Syriac and the Antioch, the Church of Antioch, and the Armenian Christian tradition. All of the Armenian historians throughout, like even the medieval ages, talk about their connection with Syriac Christianity. So it's not just like okay, these were separate things, separate languages. No, they're talking about, okay, we even shared languages at times. We shared missionaries and thinkers and cultures and all of this. Moving on here, this is actually pretty interesting, and this is recent. In 1916, a Ge'ez copy of the Gospels was presented to a Syriac Orthodox monastery. So, sorry, I know this is getting in the 1900s. We're getting a little bit close, but still before 1965. Still before 1965, we're still presenting. We're saying, okay, the Ethiopians are like, okay, here's a copy of the gospel. Here's a present and share of our unity and a share of our togetherness and all of these good things.
Imagine if they just clip this last section and say this is what the video is about.
This is what the video is about. Look, 1900s don't count. They don't count. No. Here we're this is actually a really cool thing. So we were talking about how Saint Severus is basically universally venerated very early on in all of the Orthodox traditions. There is evidence in the wall paintings of many monasteries of Saint Barsuma,
I love him.
who, with the Copts, the Ethiopians, and the Armenians. So all three of these
You
have
guys want to know a secret?
them. Go ahead.
Even the Maronites used to venerate him.
Really?
Yeah.
Wasn't he? Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
I want to add a point. I like the points of disunity, because the disunity, when it would get reverted, proves that they were in unity before whatever happened and after. A good example is Saint Severus's person in Armenia. During the Julianist controversies, people in Armenia were deceived on what Saint Severus actually taught, so they anathematized him. Now hold on, isn't he already anathema? You're not in communion. That's number one. And then after they learned the truth of the matter, they revoked the anathema. What do you mean revoke the anathema? Are you in communion or not? It just goes to show the point is, even in these moments of like disunity, very, very, transient, and it gets reverted very quickly, like the Pact of Reunion. It's literally called the Pact of Reunion. I want people to drill that in their head, like with Damien and Peter. What does that tell you about before whatever event happened and after, right? If we're going at lengths to get involved in each other's business, if I think you're teaching heresy, do whatever, ecclesial discipline, learn I was wrong about it, and restore communion, what does that tell you about what we've been doing the whole time, right? Getting involved in people's business is exactly the nature of a bishop. That's what St. Cyprian says. If you are a shepherd, you care about every part of the flock as your own. This is what St. Cyprian says.
There was a Julianist monk who deceived the Armenians about Severus, and so there was a synod showing again unity between us in the early 8th century, where we discussed Saint Severus and what he actually said. The Syriacs presented to the Armenians what Saint Severus said, which is contrary to what the Julianist monks had told them. So that was it. That was the end of the conversation about Severus. It was done. That easy.
Yeah, it's biblical too, because like when Paul saw Peter was like he was making mistakes, right? He obviously corrected him, but not only corrected him, he spoke about it in his letters to make sure that people weren't misrepresenting as, oh, okay, Peter's going this way and Paul's going this way, right? So this idea is biblical. There is disagreements, but it is the father or the shepherd's task. So that would be the bishop, the patriarch's task to take care of his flock. So exactly like Agan said.
Like imagine like the 21st century, the Coptic Synod convenes to anathematize like Joel Osteen. Like, who cares? You're not in communion with us, right?
Yeah, exactly. So let's keep going here. Here we're talking about the Caleb of Axum, which is a strong Ethiopian saint who found a close admirer in as it says here exactly, non-Ethiopian Syriac writer who wrote a book just for him, right? So again, even between, it's not just the specific, Syriacs and Armenians, even the Syriacs or the Church of Antioch, right, with the Church of Ethiopia, which was under the Copts at the time as well, they're in direct correspondence. So it's not just because,
like I told you guys, Yemen, the Himyarites, that's Yemen.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
And also, who is Caleb going to free? Miaphysites, right? Who are not Ethiopian. Saint Arethes and all of them. So the ultimate show of inter-Orthodox relation is the Ethiopian Orthodox going to save another Orthodox, right? Who are both Miaphysite, both Oriental Orthodox. And of course, the irony of all of this is these Chalcedonians venerate these Oriental Orthodox saints. They venerate Saint Arethes, they venerate Saint Caleb, they venerate all these people.
Yeah, it's really crazy because we hear his Greek name a lot, Arethes, but his Arabic name, his real name, was Harith, al-Harith. So, and right now, this name is very Sunni. Like, you don't see many Christians with this name. It's a very particularly Sunni name. So, it's very it gets people to think we actually have a saint, multiple. There's not just one Harith, by the way. There's multiple Saint Hariths with this name before Islam existed.
Yeah, and I really like that point that Deacon made. There was a political unity as well. So I think there's a few later slides here where we see like the Ethiopians, because they had their emperor still intact at the time, he would be going to interact with some other relations with the Syriacs, with the Copts, with the Armenians as well. So let's see here. So here we have a Syriac bishop and the Ethiopic king on the matter of faith. Again, they were united in this universal church, and the scholar itself calls us Monophysites. But again, here, even with the common branding, like you're calling all of us Monophysites, at least we know we're united in faith. And here it calls us Severian monophysitism. So it's like Agan said, they all represent us as, okay, you're all followers of Severus. Okay, we're all united, right, with Severus, who is what? Ordained all the way from the line of Peter. So okay, we're going all the way back to Christ. It's
Beautiful.
not that.
Beautiful.
It's not like okay, the Russians, they're like, okay, no, we like our pope, or the Greeks were like, okay, no, this pope is less ecumenist, let's go with this one. Yeah. We're all united to this one saint. Why? Because they taught the one Orthodox faith.
Real quick on that, the previous slide. And notice at the end he says Harith in his Arabic. But I actually like this scholar because he has the series on the Arabs with Christianity, like the Arabs before Islam, Arabs on Christianity, Christian Arabs and stuff. And he makes the argument that the Byzantines dismantled the Ghassanids. If you guys have heard of the Ghassanid state, they're the ones who hid Jacob Beredeus and stuff. They dismantled them, and they were the buffer between the raiding of the Muslims into the Roman Empire. So when they dismantled them, the Byzantines dismantled that protection they had. They were a puppet, a vassal state of the Romans, but they were Miaphysite, non-Chalcedonian. So the Byzantines dismantled them. They sent their leaders into exile in Sicily and other places. So when that happened, they left themselves open to the Muslim conquest. That's how the history played out. Yeah, go ahead.
This is off topic. But it's just because I'm predicting they're going to stop using this argument. We have them in communion. Their next argument is going to be our principle of unity is a false one. You guys are united under Dioscorus, the recognition of Dioscorus' faith, or the recognition of Severus' faith. That's going to be their new argument. It's going to be fine. You guys can communion, but it's not a canonical way, right? You're resting it all on this random man's profession of faith. I want people to know, Athanasius himself, he says, if you're not in communion with Alexander, you are not a Christian. That was a test of communion. St. Cyprian, during the Novatianist controversy, said, if you're not in communion with Pope Cornelius, you're not a Christian. And what's funny about the Athanasius thing, going back, Athanasius says about himself, if you're not in communion with me, you are a heretic.
Didn't Basil say it about Meletius too?
Yes. Yeah. You're a disjointed member if you're not in communion with him.
Yeah.
So the whole idea is sometimes God vests the proclamation of faith to single individuals. He vests it in them, right? They're standing against the world when the whole world is moving a wrong direction. Dioscorus and Severus are examples of that. Not that they're the cornerstone of our church, but that God wants to be glorified in them. He did it with Athanasius. He did it with Pope Cornelius. Sometimes he does it with specific sees. Like Ambrose talks about, because in the West, if you were in communion with Rome, you're most likely a Nicene bishop. The Arians in the West were not. So he said people, they would travel and they would ask somebody, are you in communion with Rome, the mother see, where all the other Western sees get their churches? They're like, yeah, okay, then we can commune with each other. It was as simple as that. It's the standard of unity is the faith. How it's manifested is in specific individuals. So this is why Athanasius says, if you're not a Christian, if you're not in union with me or Alexander, my predecessor. That's the reasoning behind it. That the faith is expressed in one man who you put in your diptychs and you commemorate.
That's a good point, yeah. And this is a thought shown in all of the early fathers. It was like, what was that one quote from Augustine? What did he say again? He said, if you're not in communion with the church of what? The world, which is also who? The Copts. So that's why they have to pretend they're like, okay, no, we actually have Alexandria, but it's in Egypt. And the one thing they don't tell you, and this is a fact, I was going to get a little bit later, but we'll mention it here. The Eastern Orthodox are very disjointed in the fact that they despise the Church of Alexandria that they have set up in Alexandria right now, which is a little bit weird, but we'll get into some of that later. Let's keep going here. This is funny. The Eutychius of Alexandria, who was a Melkite patriarch of Alexandria, so a Chalcedonian one, he by mistake correctly identifies the Nubians who are under the Copts as Jacobites. So he was just saying, okay, they're heretics, they're whatever, they're Monophysites. He got it in the wrong way. I'm pretty sure it was because like of a culture or a race thing, if one of you know about it and want to correct me, but he identifies them still as Jacobites because they're a different culture, not on the idea of faith or something like that. So this is kind of funny. So I think the racism thing is in the bloodline of all of Eastern Orthodox at this point. I don't know. There's some like spiritual like Satanism here. I don't know. But anyway, here we have a again, this is really cool as well. You see it in the culture, in the artwork, the icons of between the Armenian and Syriac Orthodox churches as well. The Armenian graffiti, they leave it on the Syriac Orthodox monasteries back then, so that they would be visiting, they would draw like a beautiful paintings, beautiful drawings, as their sort of blessing, they're marking to show, okay, we were here, we were, we celebrated this liturgy, we're in connection, we're in religious ties. Here as well, I think someone mentioned the Nicene Creed earlier. Here specifically, it talks about like from a historical point of the scholarship, it says their creed has minor differences in ritual, so in culture between like Copts and Armenians, for example, but they all announce their elections to one another. So once again, this goes back to the idea in the liturgy we commemorate each other's patriarch. So we're always in this direct line of knowledge. Okay, who's the Pope of Alexandria right now? Like there's always this direct line of communication. We're never in the dark. And we also send congratulations. So that papal message that we all see today, that's definitely historical. They were always talking with each other, congratulating each other. Oh, hey, you got a new bishop, and like let's have a liturgy soon and stuff like this. It's really amazing.
And I want to add,
yeah,
in the early church, this is how you confirmed communion. I mentioned at the beginning, it's by sending patriarchal recognitions of it. Like during Cyprian's days, they would write to Fabianus of Antioch regarding Cornelius, because there's a dispute. Is it Cornelius or Novatius? And Cornelius gets upset that he didn't hear something, because Antioch was still discerning the matter. Who should we send letters of communion to? That's why they're called letters of communion. That's how you establish communion back then. We did it from the get-go, from the brink, like from the very beginning, with Timothy, Dioscorus, all of them. Especially between Egypt and Antioch. Egypt and Antioch is the most patriarchal letters.
Remember the Paul of Samosata thing?
Right.
Paul of Samosata thing. We depose him and we tell you guys. We depose him, we have a new one, so you know who the patriarch is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it was always mainly between Alexandria and Antioch, and the third would be Armenia. Just those three is the full burden met. Because remember, Eritrea, Ethiopia, the Malankara, these are all under at least one of those three seats. They don't have autocephaly. So we just have to like demonstrate this three-way connection of patriarchal letters of communion between Alexandria, Antioch, Armenia sending to Antioch, Armenia sending to Egypt, vice versa, all of those. And we've done that.
Yeah. Can I really quickly talk about the diversity in creed, in the creed that we say? So like Deacon Mehret said, it was Ephesus 3 presided over by Peter the Fuller and of Antioch, and correct me if I'm wrong, is it Timothy II of Alexandria or Peter? So. Okay. Yep. They presided over it, and this institutes the creed being said in the liturgy, whereas before it was done in baptisms and so on. But this is now it's being said in the liturgy itself. Now, and that is the Nicene Constantinopolitan Creed, 381 included. But within that, you'll see that, for example, in the Church of Antioch, in our creed, there are phrases that the mainstream creed doesn't have, like that what Alexandria would say versus what we would say. So, for example, we have Mother of God in the creed itself. No other church has that, just us. Why? So you'll see before Nicaea, even the creed of the Church of Antioch was already saying Mother of God in it. So this is something we've inherited the whole time. And who are we with in Mesopotamia? Who's with us there in our neck of the woods after 475? The Assyrian Church of the East is with us, right? So what is the controversy with them? Isn't it about this? So then now it's emphasized. Not only are we saying Mother of God in the creed, but instead of when you guys say according to the scriptures, we say according to his will, because we're emphasizing something about his divinity here. Or this type of thing. So even creedal diversity was something very normal in the primitive church and continued to be. As you could see with us in communion, the Armenians they have diversity too in their creed with us. So this is something that is normal. It's not like people kind of come at us like, well, why is you guys your creeds are all different. They're not different in substance. They're different with certain emphasis from councils. Mother of God is if you're Chalcedonian, you can't reject the title. It's dogmatized. So what? Because we have it in the creed, it's wrong.
Okay, we got to get moving here a little bit. Here, another cool thing, the ostracon, which is a pot used as a writing surface, was written. So it was written with Syriac on it, but used in Nubia, which is again under the Copts, under the Egyptians. So here you have actually like a shared language, a shared alphabet between them in religious like parts, this culture. And the next parts of here we'll all be talking about here, the pentaglot. This is really, really cool. Like this is a liturgical article, like a liturgical like booklet. So nowadays churches will use obviously like electronic TVs but back then this is like fully printed out, written down by all the monks, and it has every single language from each of the traditions: Coptic, Syriac, Giz, it doesn't matter. It's all on there. Armenian. So this is really cool. How can you say we weren't in contact, we weren't in communion, we never met each other, if we have these dedicated booklets for celebrating liturgy with each other? This is just damning. Like I don't even know what you do about this. Like it's like
I want to add a point. The quote here, it says, rather for a symbolic one, representing the unity of the churches, separated by strictly united by the same faith. So it's saying this thing with the prayers in all different languages is not for practical use. Like imagine this even with printers today, right? This is a useless document in the sense like it's impossible to read with all these languages, right? This is even with printers, right? No one is using this like at a practical level, in the sense of like you have like everyone, like 5 different people behind you all peering over on the same paper. No one's gonna understand anything. This was done to show unity, as this scholar mentions.
Exactly. It's just one after the other with these evidences. So here, okay, we're getting into claim 2. We'll just quickly wrap that up. But his next claim here was, and this is a smaller section. Sorry, I know this is getting a little long, but this is a smaller section of, okay, so you guys have no early Orthodox synods. You guys never officially met between each tradition. And clearly that's wrong. We have mentioned it here, and we're going to mention it again. Council of Ephesus 3, right? You have St. Timothy, Coptic representative, Peter the Fuller, who was I think Antiochian representative. For right there, we have the First Council of Divin. Here, Armenian and Syriac or Church of Antioch representative as well. The Coptic Armenian Synod in Cairo, right? Again, from the title, you can very clearly assume the Copts and the Armenians both attended. And this is all throughout history. It's not just, okay, like, oh, look, I put 1965 on there. Addis is on there. No, it's before it. Even before, we had all of these synods, all of these councils, all of it, right? So, yeah, it's very clear. Deacon, do you want to add any quick, clear points on this?
Yeah, the catechumen should change his name to Cleave to Literacy, because he is clear, like he hasn't read any of this. Nothing from what we said. Just Twitter. He has the attention span of a fly. He just reads tweets and that's it.
I want to add. On the First Council of Divin, when it upholds Constantinople, where did they get that from? Why that random council in Constantinople, which was not received ecumenical when it was first convened? On the basis of Chalcedon? Certainly not. That's when they're rejecting Chalcedon in this synod. On what basis? It's on the basis of 475, explicitly. This recognition of this three council is following the pattern of Alexander and Antioch.
Perfect, yeah. And you're like,
Ephesus 3 had like 700 bishops.
Right.
It was huge. It was the biggest council of all time.
This is the point when we're debating Craig. He tried to run this point where, our communion never existed. I hit him with this one thing. It just never got mentioned in the debate again. Like, how are we just, fringe little, ethnic groups, but we're compiling 500 to 700 bishops? What's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really funny too. And I find it extremely funny because Cleve said, okay, you guys have never met for whatever 1200 years, or like what. Actually, I found an article online. Like, this is the official Eastern Orthodox article. I can link it here to the YouTube channel after. But it says, in Crete in 2016, a pan-Eastern Orthodox synod was held between the popes. For the first time in 1200 years, the 14 autocephalous Orthodox churches, in this case Chalcedonians, will meet with a common desire to reinforce their relations and address contemporary spiritual and social challenges in the world. Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny?
Is this the one in Cyprus?
I think so. It's in Crete. So I don't.
Oh, sorry, Crete. Sorry, Crete. Yeah. Crete. Which is so funny because a lot of the popular people, Ortho Bros online, actually railed against this synod because they were like inviting people from like the Latin Church to sit in on it. There were little overtones of ecumenism there, but first time in 1400 years, good for them. And one other thing. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, brother.
Just one other thing I wanted to add, because I might have to leave pretty soon. It's funny because we're talking about inter-Orthodox relationships, unity of the church, all of these things surrounding the idea of like apostolic unity and succession. But when you think about it, all of this has to presuppose what? Apostolicity. Who's the one that has the apostolic sees? We do. The only one that they have that they can claim is continuous is what? Constantinople has an anachronistic claim to St. Andrew. Is it even apostolic? Did anyone in the first 300-400 years of the church ever reference that being the See of Andrew? No.
They said the opposite.
PSYOP.
You're denying the pentarchy. The pentarchy.
Exactly. I think the Holy Spirit is speaking through you, Daniel. It is a psyop for them. They're the ones that are under the psyop, not us.
I want to talk about that real quick. This is a punch I've always held myself back from making online, but I feel like they deserve it now. They don't have a single apostolic see, and I hope this gets clipped. Especially with what I'm about to say, the evidence for it. Why? Why am I saying this? Think about the ones that aren't rival patriarchates, because those will debate about it, right? Like Alexander, Antioch. Let's look at the ones uniquely they have. Jerusalem and Constantinople. Let's talk about Jerusalem first. Jerusalem, by the time of 70 AD, most of them left, right? And then on top of it, Bar Kokhba, Eusebius explicitly mentions they just ran out of bishops. They had to be supplied from outside. Gentile bishops were now holding the bishopcy of Aelia, as it was called, which was in Antiochian jurisdiction. Okay, so Jerusalem, like we can say, there's no continuity. They literally had to get bishops from outside now, and that's where the succession continued. So it's apostolic in a sense, like all the apostles, they labored there, their fruits there, but really what they sowed ended up in Antioch because of 70 AD and then Bar Kokhba under in Antiochian jurisdiction. Okay, so Jerusalem itself, it's not really inherently an apostolic see at this present moment, which is why we were comfortable. Armenia was able to establish a patriarchy in Jerusalem. That's what happened. That's what happened when they sent Gentile patriarchates during Bar Kokhba's time. Same thing. It's not uncanonical. Right. Secondly, with Constantinople, not only is it anachronistic that Andrew went there, you have Pope Leo in his own epistles flexing that they're not apostolic, saying you don't get to tell me what to do. I don't want to hear it. You're not even an apostolic see. You don't have that primacy we have, and that's explicitly why the canon at Constantinople was rejected. The basis of primacy. Since when are you going to give primacy on the basis of the empire? Right? It's inherently tied with the Christians being there in the sense of them holding the faith there from the very beginning. That's why Rome had that primacy in Irenaeus' days. So those are the unique sees. Jerusalem and Constantinople, that falls through, right? They're the only other sees they have, which can trace in some sense to an apostle, would be what? Alexandria and Antioch, which, let's hear it. Who put a patriarch while who was alive? That's the a priori canon. You cannot put a bishop while someone's alive. It was them.
The only one that they
there was no council for that. They just up and did it.
No council, and also like with Antioch, I think they can keep somewhat of a straight face. But if you ask any Eastern Orthodox, oh yeah, you guys have the true Alexandria, they all start cracking up laughing. They can't even convince themselves because it's so blatantly obvious. But even with Antioch, the argument is very, very obvious also.
Yeah, that was a point I was going to bring up later. But yeah, like it's also a point where it's like all of their patriarchs hate each other, or they're not in direct contact with each other. It's in disjunction. So it's a really weird thing. It's like, oh, we're the face of orthodoxy, we're the face of unity. Meanwhile, our patriarchs waited 1,200 years because they couldn't bear to be in the same room with each other.
About the centuries gaps thing, another deflection. After the Muslim conquests, their patriarchs of Alexandria, Jerusalem, Antioch, they all go to the court of Constantinople for centuries. They have titular titles just sitting in Constantinople over and over. They're not even in these places. For centuries, they're not there. Huge gaps of time. The lists of names they have on the list are just people who lived in the Constantinopolitan court. That's it.
We just lost Deacon, but we'll keep going. We have a little bit here left. So we have here the Council of Menezekert.
Sorry. If we can just go back 1 second. This is so people can see a visual. What I kept mentioning about the Pact of Reunion, from 616 and 617, right, where they resolved the schism between Coptic and Syriac churches. The document is literally called the Pact of Reunion. There's a there. Right. There's a falling out, and then there's a restoration at a synod. And Athanasius and Pope Anastasius is one of the examples where you have back and forth. Both are extant, where they send communal letters back and forth. So I just wanted to point that out for everyone.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I wanted to make a visual. I didn't want to just make it all boring slides. I know how that we usually do it, but yeah, I made this little one. So this is a visual representation of it. But so this is one talking about literally signing an agreement dealing with theological and Christological issues. It's an Armenian council, but the Syriac patriarch was there co-presiding, right? So again, even in these councils, it's not just one person decides. It's between all of the traditions, right? So here also we have another one, a Syriac archdeacon with the presence at the council. He had a high prestige to more, as well as the Armenian prince. So again, in this council, again, we have the Syriac presence and the Armenian presence in unity, proclaiming the one miaphysite, the one true faith. And even here it says the Church of the Empire was unable to match. Like their unity was like crazy, so much that a Syriac archdeacon sat next to the Prince of Armenia. This is crazy. Okay, I think maybe one more. Here it talks about once again the Catholics tried to invade and force convert us, but they eventually realized that the disconnect between us is so large because their unity, and they don't even like think about us at all. they're only maintaining their Miaphysite faith, their one proclamation of the one Christ, this one faith that has been united throughout the ages, right? In Armenia, Syria, Nubia, and Ethiopia, right? All of the seas, right? So Nubia and Ethiopia under Egypt as well. So yeah, the three are right there, just in unity, just in this unity.
I want to add, because we mentioned this in some slides, the reason why Rome failed in getting the seas back in communion with them, the reason they failed was because we relied on each other. We trusted in each other. We would venerate each other's saints, right? That's the reason they fail. And Rome didn't understand. They're trying to go, to this day, they do. It's the same method. They go one by one, try to go at us one by one, make agreements one by one, which happened in the modern age. Thank God our synod finally, like, no more of this. Let's make a committee for dialogue. Very recently. That was always their attempt, to go at us one by one, little by little. I'll go talk to the Armenians, and then I'll go talk to the Syriacs. And it never worked because of the common faith that we've always had. What happens with Addis Ababa and this recent committee I just mentioned, these aren't proclamations of communion. This isn't establishing a church. It's just being more in each other's business in our day-to-day lives.
The guy's not reading.
No, you guys spoiled it a bit, but I have a section just for that. We're gonna go straight into it because yeah, again, Daniel, like when I read the conference, that's the first thought I had. I'm like, do they just not read? Like, there's nothing. He said, they proclaimed the new communion. I'm like, where is it? Can you point to it? Like, but we're gonna get to it right here, in a little bit right here. But anyway,
and
right
notice about the Uniates. The Uniate point, what Agan was talking about regarding Rome's approach with us, percentage-wise, like ratio percentage of Uniate groups, the Oriental Orthodox that became Uniate, so like Coptic Catholic, Syriac Catholic, Abyssinian Catholic, whatever, that's the smallest percentage in comparison to the others, of everybody. The Indians, if they try to use them, the Indians at the time were actually Church of the East when the Portuguese got there. So that's different. But with the rest of us, it was the lowest percentage of any other group. Like the Melkite Uniates are much bigger in percentage. The Church of the East, much bigger Uniate percentage. We have the smallest one.
That's a really great point. For us, for Copts, in our Book of the Saints, the Synaxarium, every few Sundays you'll hear the Roman Catholic Pope tried to convince the Coptic Pope to come over, and then what's the answer? No, we already have our own faith. We already have our own tradition from the fathers. Every few weeks, they tried consistently throughout history and failed every single time. In Egypt as well, like you'll find that so-called Coptic Catholics they're even smaller than Coptic Protestants. Like the margin is very minimal, right? But regardless, here we have the Copto-Arabic Chronicle, again, the history of the patriarchs in the Egyptian church, talking about the Armenian Catholicos meeting with the patriarch Cyril. I think it's Cyril the Third, something like that. And here they're agreeing on the faith with which Nestorius and Leo and the Council of Chalcedon disagreed. So that here they're kind of labeling them all as the Chalcedonians, right? They're kind of being a little bit polemical here, but it's just another confirmation that it says, it doesn't just say Copts and Armenians. What does it say? Copts, Armenians, Syrians, Abyssinians, Nubians, on the Orthodox upright faith. All of us. It's not just some of us. It's not just two of us. All of us. We all agree on the same faith. Okay, and here is one of the funniest points. This one just requires basic reading comprehension. And it's a very, very popular point. If you go Twitter and you type in Orthodox, you'll be very guaranteed to find an EO apologist saying, you guys just recently called yourself Oriental Orthodox. You guys are ripping us off, whatever, blah, blah, blah. You want to trick people into your church.
Let me give a quick kindergarten lesson for people who don't understand. Okay. The word Oriental Orthodox is actually two words, believe it or not, guys. It's Oriental and Orthodox. The Oriental part is new. The Orthodox part is not new, guys. Okay? You can say that the whole word is new because of the new part, but that doesn't mean the old part is new. Make sense, guys? There's Oriental and there's Orthodox. Oriental is a new word. Orthodox is not a new word. I hope that people understand that. It's a little hard metaphysics, physics itself, science. I know it's difficult. You need a PhD for it.
That's in English, Agan. Okay, that you just pulled that out of English. You're using English right now. Okay, we the Greeks. Orthodox is a Greek word. It belongs to us, right?
You guys remember I think it was from Amba Serapion. He did some kind of post, or it was either him or the Coptic Synod. I don't remember, but it was about when the whole the thing with the Rome was blessing the gay marriages and stuff.
Yes.
Okay, so at the time, Lofton put out a review about it, and he translated it. It was in Arabic, so he had Google translated into English, and so when it's talking about us, it says الكنيسة الأرثوذكسية المشرقية, I think it was in Arabic, and then it translates that into English as Eastern Orthodox Church. So Lofton has the English Google Translate on there, and he's like, why are the Copts talking to the Eastern Orthodox about this? They're not Eastern Orthodox. Like, look how they're thinking, these people. Like, they think this English thing is infallible, like set in stone. They're out of their mind.
You don't understand. Google Translate, that's my infallible counsel. That's my 13th counsel. You don't know.
I like how they it's funny how their name for us, because they don't want to call us Orthodox. Their name for us is always Orientals, the Orientals. And then they say it's a made-up word. Okay, well, what was our name back then?
Yeah.
The non-count,
it was Copts.
It was funny. It's a funny note.
It was just Copts.
Yeah, we were all just the Copts.
We were just Egyptians. We were all Egyptians. Even John of Damascus, like he gets confused sometimes too. He's just like, okay, the Jacobites. Oh no, the Monophysites. Like there was a clear understanding of where our communion, even from their saints. Like they were like, okay, all of these groups of people. There wasn't just the Copts. Like what? Like people refer. Like I've went over some sources that say the Jacobites, the Nubians, the Abyssinians, like they understood there was a different subsection of culture who were or even considered themselves to be Orthodox. I think there's another quote here as well.
The name they would give us was Monophysites. That's what they would use in their documents, right? Against the Monophysites, or against the Jacobites, right?
Mm-hmm.
I like that word because number one, the Jacobites thing, it's like picking a founder, right? It proves we're in unity. Secondly, using the Monophysites thing, even though in some sense it's a straw man, it's picking out a unity of faith. So yeah, like it's just inconsistent arguments, like as if their saints way back in the days were saying these guys aren't even in communion. Who should I refute? Right? That wasn't the argument. It was refuting the Monophysites, refuting the Jacobites, refusing the Synusius, whatever they wanted to call us back then, right? Refusing the confusers, refuting the heretics. At least it was a common term for all of us, right? They weren't saying refuting that group over here who's not in that communion with that group over there. Nobody was thinking that way.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what we're in agreement. They knew they had a common term for us. They had a common idea of who we were. But anyway, let's get into this. Right?
How come they're not mad at Rome for calling itself Catholic?
Actually, he brings that up here a little bit, and I think I have it clipped. We can see it a little bit later. But he says, why don't we? Actually, he doesn't even harp on the Roman Catholics. He says the Anglicans call themselves Catholic. The Protestants call themselves Orthodox.
Why aren't they telling Rome? They should tell Rome the same thing. Stop calling.
I think they judge based on size, not facts. If you're big, you can have the word. Yeah. If you're lesser than us, you're imposters.
Yeah.
No, I think it's a pride thing. It's like it's our word. We have this word. This is our word. Our word for you is just it's the Romans. You're all Romans. You're all whatever you want.
At least that's true. At least that's true. The double-headed eagle everywhere. Of course, they're the Romans. What else are they?
I mean, that's what they want, right? We've either got the emperor or the supreme pope.
They sleep at night just thinking about Constantinople and the yellow flag with the double-headed eagle all over their rooms.
Synergy.
Their basements of
the
their
two heads in synergy.
They have they're white moms. They're in the basement of the mom's house with the Byzantine flag. The mom doesn't even know what's going on. Making them sloppy toes.
Okay, let's get through some of this before something kills me. So Ephesus 2. Ephesus 2, it's pre-Chalcedon. Okay, so this was the council that Leo like had, you know, he raged at because Dioscorus didn't listen to him. But I included this in here to say that calling ourselves Orthodox, Dioscorus calling himself Orthodox, there's a precedent. It's not just we just started randomly call ourselves Orthodox. No, there's a precedent before and after Chalcedon. We don't change things.
I
We
want to
don't change
say,
things.
this is actually a moment of the schism. Here's why. As far as Leo's concerned, this is when we left the church. And as far as Chalcedon is concerned, they're concerned about Leo. You get that? I'll say it again. As far as Leo's concerned, this is when we broke off from the church. And as far as Chalcedon is concerned, they're only concerned with what Leo thinks. That's how they talk about Ephesus 2. The legates say, it doesn't matter, it's rescinded by Leo, right? So if the very moment of this schism, according to you guys, this for Leo, it wasn't a rejection of Chalcedon. It's mainly Ephesus 2's convening. As far as Leo's concerned, the moment of the schism, we called ourselves Orthodox. The moment of the schism, not 1965. So it's from the beginning because we have that common foundation. The Latin fathers use the word Orthodox. The Greek fathers use the word Orthodox. From 2nd century until now, 1st century maybe, right? From the very beginning, the moment of the schism, we use that word. The seconds after the schism, we use that word. At Chalcedon, Dioscorus uses that word. After Chalcedon, we use that word. And the centuries in between, we use that word. We come to 1965, we add the Oriental part. You freak out.
And the Oriental part wasn't.
If you ask the catechumen about this, about Ephesus 2, he has obviously has no idea that we call ourselves the Orthodox here. That would blow his mind. I think he'd explode. but if you asked him about what Ephesus 2 is, that was the Robber Synod that canonized the tome of Dioscorus against the tome of Leo. Like, he'll say something like that. It requires absolutely no study. That's what he would say.
Yeah. I mean, hey guys, don't get too excited. This is still before Chalcedon. Where's your evidence that we called ourselves Orthodox after Chalcedon? Okay. Oh, wait, another one, right? We call ourselves again during Ephesus 2. So again, there's a common trend, and it mentions Dioscorus and Cyril. So it's based on the faith of the fathers, because this is another common trend you'll see. And I'll say very simply for those who aren't familiar with like online apologetics, Eastern Orthodox, Roman Catholics, they hate citing early fathers like Cyril because he doesn't agree with them. So we have no problem doing that because we have never changed, right? But in here, right, we call ourselves all the community of the Orthodox. Like Egan said, we establish that we are the Orthodox who maintain the faith of the fathers, while deposing, like here they're deposing Flavian, who didn't maintain the faith of the fathers. So anyone who doesn't maintain the faith of the fathers now has the burden of proof, like Deacon said before he had to leave. But they have the burden of proof of proving, okay, we are the Orthodox now. But let's get to what we all want to see. Okay, Timothy II of Alexandria, 5th century, right after Chalcedon. He calls himself what? He calls himself Orthodox, to all the Orthodox, not just the Copts, but everyone. Everyone who anathematizes the Diophysites, gets rid of the Council of Chalcedon, and affirms the early faith of the Holy Fathers. Furthermore, Saint Philoxenus of Mabug, right? He's what? A Syriac saint, right? Yeah, okay, it's not just Copts calling themselves Orthodox, but the Church of Antioch also calls themselves Orthodox Christians, the children of the Holy Church. I'd say it's a common thing. It's not just a one-time thing, a one-off thing.
When did they start using the name Justinian? Who started it for them? I think it was him.
I think it was standardized by Justinian.
Yeah.
And that was purely, I mean, we'll see here in a sec, but it's purely because he was jealous of Severus, probably. Here it says the Chalcedonians persecuted cruelly the Orthodox people. So there's a distinguishing of we're the Orthodox, they're the Chalcedonians, and then Severus escaped from them. Again, it's not a one-off thing, right? So here, the Blessed Saint Severus, he calls our faith Orthodox, and he calls our congregations, or all of us, the Orthodox, right? So again, this is right after Chalcedon, before Justinian, before all of the EOs got on the, we are the Eastern Orthodox. Orthodox is our word. You can use Orientals, right? All of our saints use Orthodox. once again,
who put these together? By the way, props to whoever did this. This is great. Who
yeah,
did
yeah.
this? Was it you or David George or who did it?
No, I pretty much just collected a lot of
Wow,
these, but
God
I had
bless you,
help
bro.
from a lot of the Discordians, of course. It wasn't
That's
just me.
awesome.
Yeah. Thank you. But anyway, here he again Severus refers to the church as the assembly of all the Orthodox peoples from all nations. So this is really cool. He doesn't just consider, like, sometimes they'll be like, oh, the Rokor or the Russian church, they're the Orthodox. No, Severus considers everyone who affirms this Orthodox faith to be Orthodox of all nations, cultures, language, it doesn't matter. And then he also talks about here, and Egan will love this one since he loves talking about the papacy video, but he talks about, he gave them the keys, not only to Peter, but all the Orthodox bishops who will come after him. So, Egan, you want to mention anything quickly on this one? Or?
That's the church in the background, guys, and the icon. That's St. Peter's in Antioch. That's the one.
Yeah, I want to add, you know, the Eliakim verse they always use, the Eliakim typology, the keys of Eliakim. You guys know the first one who uses that? His name is Oecumenius the Count. Oecumenius the Count. Oecumenius, that work he wrote, was inspired by Severus.
Yeah, they were friends.
Exactly. Daniel King talks about it. Severus says, I read a work from you. In which you asked me a question, and now you're using the word from to. So the first letter, he says not to anathematize the properties, and then Oecumenius writes some secret work, and then Severus says thank you for using the word from to, and he moves on. When we found out what that work is. Daniel King in 2025 wrote a document. It's this commentary on Revelation, where it's the first time the key of David is said, it's given to Peter. But in Severus's school, because he doesn't just say this in this Catena on the Four Gospels, he also says it in his homilies. In his homilies, he says he gave it to Peter. You are Peter on this rock. That is the church, right? So the first usage of the Eliakim typology is in a work influenced by Severus, in Severus's school, in a very context that implies it's given to all the Orthodox bishops. That's the first time in history anyone made this Eliakim connection. It wasn't even a commentary on Isaiah. Right? If it was commentary on Isaiah, maybe they can make a point, still Peter alone. No, it was a commentary on Revelation, where Christ has the key. And it says, just as when he gave the keys to Peter, which in Severus' school, when he says it gives to Peter, it refers to the church. That's just a quick fun fact for anyone, but it's not related.
And just real quick, too, we're going to make a video response to Craig eventually, but very quickly. If the Syriac Orthodox line of Antioch is not valid, then the See of Antioch doesn't exist. It's either that or there's nothing. Just wanted to put that out there.
I mean, yeah. I was thinking about responding to Craig, but I feel like at this point, Craig's just, after that debate you had with him, Megan, it's just like he's just trying to spam whatever he can. But, God willing, we do, because some of those arguments, like, some people unfortunately do fall into them and they kind of get confused, which is why I wanted to make this stream as well. So, okay, we've covered slightly after Chalcedon, but I mean, maybe he still has a point, right? Maybe during the medieval era, or maybe right after Chalcedon we stopped it, right? Nope, kept going. St. Peter, he says, let this excellent fellow then desist from propounding impossibilities to us and lawlessly unsettling not merely the Orthodox Church, but the whole world with his rubbish.
You know what? They're right. They're right. The catechumen guy and them, because Oriental Orthodox is a new term. We should just call ourselves what we always called ourselves, the Orthodox Church. That's the origin.
Well, we have to stop using it.
Thank you, catechumen, cleave to literacy. Thank you, because you're right. We should just call ourselves the Orthodox Church. That's what we call ourselves, or the Catholic Church. This is our real name, the Orthodox Church, the Catholic Church. Thank you for shedding light on our real name.
Yeah. No, yeah. And like, even going back to this, like, if I can go back real quick, this work of Oecumenius, I think that's how you say it. I'm terrible at pronouncing names.
Ecumenius, I think it is.
Yeah, Ecumenius. It's believed by scholars to be the basis for basically all of the later commentaries on Revelation, right? especially for Chalcedonians. So, namely in the commentary of Andrew of Samosata, who was used as a foundation for all Chalcedonian commentators. So it's really funny because we always like, and we get branded as the Severians, but the Chalcedonians have a lot to do with, like, if Severus goes down, you're pretty much screwed. The Catholics, like half of their Eliakim argument, like Agan was saying, is screwed.
The Hail
Chalcedonians, a
Mary
lot of their
comes from
commentaries go.
The
Yeah,
Hail Mary prayer comes from Severus.
Their hymns,
Yeah.
their prayers, their worship, their theology, their Christology, their ecumenicity, their ecclesiology, all of that is from Severus.
Yeah.
I know the Syriac term, but you guys call it the Greek term homogenes. You say
Homogenes.
Homogenes.
that is from Severus. The
Yeah.
Byzantines use it.
I was gonna bring that up actually.
Yeah.
A lot of Copts mistakenly think, like, and I see this sometimes in scholarship, that Justinian wrote that. Okay, show me another hymn that Justinian wrote. I'll say it's Justinian right now.
Volker Menzi is a Chalcedonian scholar. He concedes that Justinian took it from Severus.
It just doesn't make sense. Justinian, who wrote like decrees and hated Severus and all this stuff. No, yeah, he just started writing hymns. He just started writing beats. He just felt like it, and then the Copts just took it. Like, what's going on? I don't understand. Like, and some people believe this too. Like, please just accept the faith of the fathers. Okay, 9th century, or even going further beyond. More John of Antioch. He was from the Church of Antioch. He says, well, the entire Orthodox Church, their mother and guardian. Okay, wow, but it doesn't get more clear than that. Let's get into the medieval area. Oh, Saint Michael the Syrian. He says, by the grace of God, they are Orthodox and profess one nature of Christ and God. And notice, he also says at the start, the world is divided into 24 zones, of which the Cushites, who are the Ethiopians, and the Indians possess 14. And then he calls them Orthodox. What's beautiful about this? They call us small, but during the 12th century, which is 1100 AD, we were the largest. That's what, like, 24 zones. Like, and he's saying the world is divided into them. We maintained the entirety of it before the Islamic persecution, before the Byzantines tried to run us out, before the Roman Catholics. We were the largest. So it's really funny nowadays. They'll be like, y'all are just small brown people. Like, no, that's just not how that works.
I want to add, this is a fun fact I learned recently. And you can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm serious. You can't correct me, Sabdeacon. But that common fun fact that the Assyrians made it to China. The reason we associate it mainly with the Assyrian Church because they were there. That's a fact. The Chinese didn't have a distinction between the Syriac and the Chinese.
Right.
We made it to China as well.
Yeah.
And that's why if you pair even the ACOE with us, we outweighed the Greeks and Lions. Much more. It's a fact.
Yeah, we were there. We were in China, Turkestan, Afghanistan, wherever the Church of the East was, we were there with them.
Right.
Yeah. And you're right. The Asians, they didn't make a distinction between us and the Church of the East. Right. They would call it the religion of light. I think that was their name for it.
Sorry, someone's correcting me. Yeah, it was actually Andrew of Caesarea, not Andrew of Samosata. It's okay. Yeah. They still use Severus regardless.
But Andrew of Caesarea, he bases a lot of his commentary off of what Ecumenius already did.
Yeah.
So that's the first full commentary on Revelation that we have from the Patristic era.
Yeah.
Was Ecumenius.
It just requires a little bit of reading. Here's Dr. Lucy Parker. Very easy. He says, and this is they get a testimony from a Roman Catholic people who tries to again convert a bunch of West Syrians or the Syriac Orthodox at the time, and they fail. And they're like, what's going on? And they're saying, oh, the West Syrians consider only themselves, the Copts, Ethiopians, and Armenians to be Orthodox. Hey, Daniel, does this say 1965 or I don't? I might be misreading.
No, this is a psyop after Addis Ababa.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah,
you're right. My bad. Time travel.
We paid off this scholar.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. Dr. Lucy Parker.
Something about Hezbollah and the CIA.
Yeah. Yeah. This is okay. We're getting a little close here, but 19th century, so in the 1800s, we have a priest writing to Mar Athanasius. He says, for the unity of faith and doctrine handed down from your ancestors in union with the Orthodox Church of Armenia, of which you are its members and the head of Christ, the head of us all is Christ, blessed for even evermore. So again, this doesn't just go like, okay, we're like Protestants, like we have a bunch of history, we stopped, and now we're a whole different thing. No, it's continuous even into the modern century. And this Armenian cross that I have shown here, this is a really cool thing. And this is an example of that graffiti I was talking about earlier. It's an Armenian cross on a Coptic monastery. So even that, actually, the first Christian, like modern Christian governor was Armenian, because like the Islamic the after the Islamic invasion, excuse me, they had a decree that they made it really hard for Christians to climb through the political ranks. So when the Armenians came in and they had a few people, they actually instated a governor. So like someone actually managed to become a governor, and it was Armenian. So even today, like my grandma had a story where she has an Armenian friend from Egypt still there. So they still live there in Egypt. So it's really cool. Here, we're getting really close. 1895. Again, it talks about the Coptic Orthodox Church and the Ethiopian Church. Not only them, but we're linked with the Syrian and Armenian Orthodox churches, right? And we're different from the Greek and the Russian Orthodox, and by those in Christian denominations who agree with them in doctrine, despite their different backgrounds. So here, right, he goes into that point where we stated earlier, we are the only ones that believe in the Miaphysite, the true faith. There's not like a bunch of us, and like he says here, there's a variety, and there's a slight difference, and we didn't like them, our Pope didn't like them. No, we're all one, and we have always been all one, and there's been no difference. And look, we call ourselves Orthodox as well, if you want that as well. 1908, calls ourselves the Holy Coptic Orthodox Church, and he even warns our children, the children of the church, the Coptic Orthodox Church, to flee from those who are not Orthodox, who try to confuse you and bring you out of the church. So again, like pastorally, this is a letter taking care of them. Even in our pastoral letter, like we're not just calling ourselves publicly Orthodox and internally we're like, oh no, we're just the Copts. No, look, internally right here, he's saying we, the Coptic Orthodox Church, right? Internally and externally, both call ourselves Orthodox.
If they wanted to do this, like in a reasonable way, like if they wanted to say, oh, you guys weren't calling yourselves Orthodox, whatever, there are like obviously untrue, but there are things that they can pretend to use that would be like, oh, like they have an argument. Like for example, when the Syriac Church got to America in right before this, what you're reading on the screen, around this time, maybe right before late 19th century, the Syriac Church in America used to call itself, when it first got here, it used to call itself the Assyrian Apostolic Church. That was the first name in America that it had, Assyrian Apostolic Church. But what are they going to say? Oh, you guys called yourselves the Apostolic Church? Okay, yeah. We are the one Holy Catholic Apostolic Orthodox. We are all of it. So they can't even do that. Like they're just sticking on this Oriental thing in 1965. It's like they have a pot on their head and they keep banging it with the
yeah. No, it's really funny, because even the Armenians, they had a tradition, like they would call themselves the Armenian Apostolic Church. And I think someone mentioned earlier, it's because I think it was Deacon Meher, he was like, it's not just simply about calling yourselves Orthodox, it's about the apostolic like theology of the matter. If you have the early like connection to the faith, that makes you Orthodox, not just simply calling yourself Orthodox. So we can levy the same claim right back at Cleve. You guys just called yourself Orthodox. You have no sees, you have no bishops, you have nothing to claim to really say we are Orthodox.
They're the first unions.
I mean, yeah, if you want to look at it like that, for sure. Okay, and then this one, our last Coptic patriarch, 1951, right before 1965. In one of his many amazing spiritual books, he says, as for you Orthodox Christians, he doesn't even say Coptic, by the way, Hold on to your faith until the end and avoid the gathering of those who have left the church. For this is what the Holy Scripture says, and this is what the church says. And this is the essence of it. Okay. Now we're getting into the fun part. And the final fun part. New communion at Addis Ababa. So what do we think? What do you think went on in there? Well, here it says, and this is for example, this is a letter, an English translation of Haile Selassie's letter. So he's the emperor at the time of Ethiopia. He sends out a letter to initiate the conference, right? And in 1964, before the council, what does this letter say? He says to see representatives of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church and her traditional Oriental Orthodox churches. So here's the problem. If the conference, council, whatever you want to claim we did in 1965, if we established communion there and we started calling ourselves Orthodox there, why is the emperor of Ethiopia calling himself Orthodox before then? Like, I don't understand.
That's the point I made earlier. If this is where we invented our church, how do we know who to invite?
It's just silliness. And this is an amazing thing. So the reply of Mar Ignatius's to his letter, so he gets the letter and he replies to it. He not only replies by saying, okay, like we accept and stuff like this, he cites up a part of communion between the Ethiopians and the Church of Antioch. So he says, we have record that Saint Fermentius, who was the first Archbishop of Ethiopia, came from Tyre within the province of our Mar Jacob Beredeus. In the 6th century, he visited Ethiopia. And about that same time, the 9 saints settled down in this country, leaving their home in Syria. So he's talking about continually. And he even mentions up here, like Mar Severus and then Mar Dionysius Bar Salibi. They have continuously talked about this communion. So again, if we established our communion in 1965, what is this referencing? Like, did we just make it up?
I want to add, this is like extra credit. Remember, Ethiopia didn't have autocephaly. We don't have to do this. The Syriacs didn't have to go to Ethiopia. By just communing with Alexander, you're in communion with the Ethiopians. Right. Mm-hmm. It's like asking for like before like let's say in the 300s, give me a letter of communion between Carthage and like the church outside of the borders, the Persian church, right? Like that's just extra credit. You don't need that.
Yeah. I mean, this is like what Deacon was said earlier. Like can you read basic English? Like if you read, I can link the minutes, since a lot of Chalcedonians have trouble finding them. The minutes of the conference doesn't say we are now the Holy Coptic Orthodox Church. We are now the Orthodox Church. Here it is. I laid it out. Table of context. I know Orthodox Shahada or Kai. He loves his tables of contents. So like here it is. Here it is. Number one, this is the delegations. Number one, signing of the churches. They all sign as Orthodox before they delegate, before they decide. So they're already assuming, they're presupposing they're Orthodox. Number one, they say, the modern world in our churches. They're talking about atheism, cooperation, and theological education. Okay, they're talking about further education regarding church teachings, pastoral care, cooperation in evangelism. So in efforts of evangelizing, because I know also this is a common weird claim. I think Roman Catholics make it against us. They'll say we don't evangelize, we don't go out. No, we do. We always have, but this is just for the modern world, right? This is in the modern world. How are we going to go about this? And this he almost got me here. Cleve almost got me here when I was reading. Almost. He says our relation with other churches. He's not talking about the Coptic Orthodox with the Syriac Orthodox. No, he's talking about the non-Apostolic Orthodox. He's talking about the Byzantines. He's talking about the Roman Catholics. He's talking about the Protestants.
Exactly. Talking about
imagine like reading, like imagine this is actually where we invented our church. Cleve is right about all of this. And like the first decision is now, what do we do with other churches? Like, hold on. You guys just started. Why are you guys talking about other churches now? It's like the first action is let's talk about other people. Weren't you guys just other people like 5 minutes ago under this theory?
It's crazy. It makes zero sense. And then last one is maintenance of permanent relations, and that's just a follow-up plan for the decisions of the council. So I don't see any sections in here that says we are now Oriental Orthodox. No, they came into this council presupposing and knowing, okay, we are now we are the Orthodox and the only Orthodox. So this is the final address, and we're coming up to the end here. Do you guys want to watch some of the few clips where Cleve just bumbles through some of this? If you don't mind, I'll be real quick here.
Let's do it.
All right. I commented them on here. Watch him delete it. No, that would be really funny if he deleted them midstream. Okay, 28. Okay, right here. This is icon.
Ryan Rivers.
Right.
He's an America First conservative. In the state Senate, Rivers will fight for our values, lower property taxes, and support law enforcement to keep us safe. Ryan Rivers for state Senate, the conservative we can trust.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Mute that. There you go.
Yeah, my bad. My bad. Okay, here.
These are the 21 Coptic martyrs. They're modern quote unquote saints by the Coptic Church. They were killed by Muslims. So that's where these guys are from, right? Jay Dyer recently got in trouble because he said that they're not martyrs, but that's true. They're not martyrs in the Orthodox Church. These are Coptics, right?
Yeah, they always get like they always get like a demonic manifestation whenever they see the Coptic the martyrs. I don't know why, but I think you're about to mention it here. Jay Dyer didn't just simply say they're not martyrs. He called them what? Terrorists. He's like, Hezbollah terrorists and Coptic martyrs, same level. So okay, saying
not
they're
just
not
that,
martyrs.
and
Yeah,
not just that. So that's the first thing he's saying. Look, Jay Dyer got beef for saying they're not saints. Why? Like, we're different communion. That's not the problem. That wasn't an issue. He said they're Hezbollah terrorists, and on top of that, he made an old tweet theorizing they might not even be killed. They lied about it. They're not even dead. He said they're not even dead. And when someone asked him about it, he doubled down. Oh, I'm just saying there's doubt relating. And then you call them terrorists.
He's saying it's a psyop.
Yeah.
Bro, this guy with his Hawaiian shirt, catechumen, they're not martyrs. How you sitting in your, I don't know where, in Oklahoma or something? How can you say what a martyr is, you catechumen? Why in your own communion are the Antiochians praying for our kidnapped bishop and using his honorifics as a bishop?
I remember that. Yeah.
Cleave to literacy. Go to an Antiochian parish, an ethnic Antiochian parish, and go tell them, the Syrians and the Lebanese and the Palestinians, go tell them the Coptic martyrs are not martyrs. See what happens to you.
Yeah, I want to add a point. They're not martyrs. Flavian is one issue, right? His whole correspondence with Leo, talking about he's in health after he died like 3 months before. Flavian writing, appeal after he supposedly was killed at Ephesus too. That's its own issue. But to say they're not martyrs, when we have the video of them being martyrs, is an insane statement. Like, I heard a statement from an Abuna very recently, very wise Abuna. He said, "You guys are so lucky, you youthful generations. You got to see martyrs on video. We never had this." And it's true. Like, there's one thing having, the account that had geographies, right? There's another thing. We had it in 4K, giving up their life for Christ. And in this unique instance, you can see how Satan is so angry and furious with this, calling them terrorists, calling them. You just interrupted my thought.
Sorry.
But calling them terrorists, even doubting the authenticity of their death. You know why they doubt the authenticity of their death? Because this is a sign of the truth. You know it.
I wanted to make a video. I forgot about it, but thank you for reminding me. I need to make a video of Jay Dyer's reasons for denying the 21 Coptic martyrs. One of them is like, oh, the Muslims are too tall. Like, what is going on? What is going on? So, like, yeah, it's just because they feel like they know that we have the truth, so they have to say these guys are wrong. They never say we're right, just that these guys are wrong. So here, let's keep going with Cleve to. I think we'll use Cleve to Kurdish. I think Subdeacon called him that. That was pretty funny.
It's crazy because I'm remembering he mentioned Subdeacon in this. And
he's gonna talk about it. Look at Joe's skill, by the way. Like, why are their saints wearing orange jumpsuit like prisoners? Look at genius. Maybe because they were prisoners. Like, what is going on? What is this? What is the IQ level here? I don't understand. Like, I really don't understand. This is the audience, bro. I don't understand.
I don't want to say who it is because I don't want to bring heat to him. But one of the online Catholics with a channel, who's a friend of mine, he called him actually cleave to my hairline.
Okay. No, dude, no, they're gonna be like they're just using ad hoc. You gotta stop.
I know.
Okay, lock in. We're gonna focus here. Now he's gonna get into some fun icon stuff.
Yeah.
It's not to say that we don't think that their sacrifice was beautiful or that it was honorable or things. We don't venerate them as saints. That's the only thing. It's not to say like, we're like, oh, they're like evil or something. We just don't venerate them as saints. That's the only thing.
That's what Dyer said. They're like terrorists. When did he say this is a beautiful sacrifice for Christ?
He never said that. He even went so far as to double down and say, I have reasons. The Muslims are too tall. The camera was off. It wasn't theatric. Like, okay, bro, my bad. They weren't 4K. Like,
Agan, do the impression, bro. Do the impression.
I can't, but they're gonna call me out for it.
No, we can't.
They're not martyrs. They're not martyrs.
They're not in the mode of martyrs. Okay, let's keep going.
Like, we wouldn't take I don't know. We're not gonna say Charlie Kirk is a saint or something. You know what I mean?
Like, what is this?
Guys that walked with the guys that walked Jesus. I want to know what they think about this issue. I want to know what they're thinking. If it comes to baptism, confession, the Eucharistic, whatever it may be, these guys probably know.
Have you seen traditional Georgian style icons? Now let me pull it up. Georgian icons.
Protect your dreams under our roof.
The Armenian guy online, what's his name? He showed me how to take the ads off if you do something with the YouTube link. I forgot what he said.
Yeah, my bad. Yeah, I'm in incognito here, but I'll switch it next stream.
Like
okay,
this?
here.
We talk about.
Wait, watch this.
They got
this is the funniest part. This is a Coptic icon, by the way.
That's a Coptic.
Yeah. This is a Coptic. Look what he says. Look at this.
No, I don't think that looks anything like the Coptic anime eyes icon.
What?
That's this guy, bro. He's judging our icon art off of random stuff. Go to our churches, look at our old icons.
No, the funniest part is this is a Coptic icon drawn by an Armenian. So it disproves his claim, and out of his own mouth, he is condemned. Out of his own mouth, he's condemned.
With Mario's brother, he said the future of American Orthodoxy. Same thing.
Icons. But I mean, I could see how maybe you would think, I don't know, they got like a bigger head or something. Is that the critique? No, I don't think that looks anything like the Coptic icons. The Coptic icons look very, very specific. They have big, giant anime eyes.
Right here.
Like, they look very, very distinct.
I want to add, like, this is the most research you'll see them doing in their life. Just scrolling through icons on Google.
Wait.
Coptic. I'm gonna pull these up again. Coptic icons. They are very distinct. They are very kawaii. Like, I mean, look, they're super, super distinct. I mean, this is like, they make the eyes like half their face just about. It's like an anime character. And like, he's got like the mouth open, like, ooh. It's like he's going, ooh. You see what I'm saying?
Why is he making fun of an icon? Like, the problem was, if he hates this, he's going to hate the early church's icons because they're all big eyes. You know why? Cleve? Because they have a reason. Iconography isn't random, right? We don't need a council to decide on iconography. It's a tradition that the eyes are the windows to the soul. So that's why they make them big and the mouth small, because you're supposed to see more and speak less. It's really simple.
They accuse us of ad hominems. Their whole thing is ad hominems that you guys started in 1965. Your icons look like anime. Everything is ad hominems. We can say once in a while something about them looking funny or whatever. Who cares? The 3 hours we've been on, the whole thing was substance.
No, you're being toxic. You're gonna get clipped. Brown Coptic subdeacon flames me on my appearance.
This looks like.
Okay. Yeah, this part I just want to watch real quick. Like, look now. Like he said, we honor their sacrifice. It's a beautiful sacrifice, right? Watch this.
somebody's son is a good, like a good artist for a high schooler, and they drew
He
it.
calls this high schooler
You know what I mean?
icons. Like,
You saw that
and then watch
God.net
this.
is mad about Bryce asking questions. P.S. J. Dyer icons in the background.
They call one of these martyrs J. Dyer. Like, he looks like J. Dyer. Now they're just making fun of the martyrs, and he's laughing at them. I thought it was a beautiful.
Dyer denies.
Yeah.
Okay.
He said it's a beautiful sacrifice. Oh, but it's funny. It's funny to laugh at. Like, whoa, make up your mind, bro. Like, I don't
Invade
understand.
by providing assistance.
Okay, this one really this one makes me really angry, but we're gonna watch it.
You can read the writings explaining why they preferred the Arabs over the Greeks. 95% of Egypt was Coptic heretics before the invasion. Lord have mercy.
Like, this just functionally does not make sense to me. How do we? And I argued with some EOs online, and they got really mad. And Alex Soren said, "I have this one historian that says you're wrong, and he could beat you up, so you're wrong." That was literally his words. He said he could choke you out, dude. I'm like, what? What's going on? But anyway, so Egypt, number one, was under like Rome. It was under the Byzantine Empire at the time when they were in union. How could they let the Muslims in when they didn't have control? It doesn't make sense. Number two, you have a Melkite patriarch, the Annals of Eutychius of Alexandria. And I have this in the presentation. I'll go over it real quick. But he says that Cyrus of Alexandria, or El Mukalkas, the governor of the kings, he traded in the Egypt to the Muslims because at the time the Byzantines were fighting the Muslims, but they were losing. So Cyrus said, "Oh dang, I hate these Egyptians anyway. I'm just gonna let them in, and they're probably gonna. I'll give like Muhammad a few wives, and he'll let me free." He, by the way, the Muslims like ended up persecuting him too. Like he didn't get off free. Also, like we have the Muslims themselves. They say Egypt was bought by treaty, not by the sword. So the Muslims say they just let us walk in there. So how did we let them in? How did we just made treaties with them? They on the behalf of the point. Like, it doesn't make sense.
I want to add a point. Like I've seen a comment because they're always thinking about it. They don't get sleep at night over this.
Yeah, totally.
One guy said, I almost joined the Copts. But I learned they let the Muslims in. That can be the fullness of truth. You're right. It's not a mark of the church. So why do you guys let the Muslims in?
Exactly.
It was you guys who did it.
Yeah. Like I said earlier on this, they're the ones who dismantled the Ghassanid buffer state that allowed for that in the first place. And then nobody talks about this conveniently. Who let the Muslims in Constantinople? Were we there? Who let the Muslims in the city? Into the walls.
Daniel, can you stop with your psyop? It was obviously us, the Copts. Okay, yeah. Not even the Church of Antioch, just the Copts. The Copts did everything. It's like when Nestorius says,
the Copts and the CIA and the Mossad.
It's like when Nestorius says Cyril was everything. Cyril was there. Cyril ran the council. Like it's like Agan said, they just have us in their minds 24/7. It's like it's terrible. Right. Okay. But we talked about this earlier. Let's get through this real quickly.
The Copts don't really have dogmas on icons, not even a council. So it makes sense why they don't have a clear standard for their art. Well, to be fair, that is extremely true. They do not have the same canonical standards for icons. And this is evident in their liturgy. I'm going to show you something. Coptic Church.
The latest Galaxy.
I want to. Oh, you skip.
Real quick here, and then you. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Just very quickly, like, why is subjective art a criteria of who's true and false? Oh, they don't have uniformity in icons. That's why their icons are they have big eyes.
Uniformity in everything, bro. That's how.
Right, and even look, even if we were uniform, if it's ugly in their subjective taste, we're false. What is this? It's like a little kid in a playground saying, no, I'm better because I have a better toy than you. My toy looks cooler. Mm-hmm. My race car is cooler. What is this?
Real quick, I just did some Eastern Orthodox level research. Hey guys, look, this is a early Byzantine icon from the 9th century. Look, big eyes, small mouth. Oh, it looks like anime kawaii. Like, bro, like, what is this? Is this a critique? Is this an actual critique?
Don't they venerate Buddha? Right.
That's another story for another time.
Yeah, that's something else.
Okay.
But
we don't talk about that enough.
Yeah, the name itself, if you can pull it up on Google, I want everyone to see this.
Okay.
Simple Orthodox. Just type in Josephat and Barlaam. Barlaam. Okay. Go on the wiki page. Go on the wiki page.
I want to see their Buddha icon.
Do Control F. Do Control F Buddha. Just do Control F Buddha. Look at how many hits.
11.
So the name itself is literally a transliteration of the name Buddha. The story itself is a Christianized version of Buddha. I want to make a comparison with this. You know how, especially some of the Catholics do it. Eastern Orthodox don't, because they play around with Isaac the Syrian, right? But they'll say, we venerate Isaac the Syrian. The Copts had a miaphysitized version of it. But we don't say, no, that's not Isaac the Syrian. That's another figure. No, say, yeah, it was Isaac the Syrian, but some of our bishops were misled. It was a miaphysitized version. We don't pretend he's another dude. The same applies here. Yeah. The same applies here. A Christianized version of Buddha is still Buddha, especially if the name is a transliterated version of Buddha. So let's talk about the Buddha icons.
Yeah. They put oranges in front of them probably too.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Guys, can you stop with the ad homs, please? Let's get serious here. Let's get serious. Okay, is my screen up again? Okay, here we go. Okay, so let's focus on your. Okay, they're saying we don't have dogmas on icon, and Cleve is going to show a really, really convincing proof for that guy who almost became Copt, who Byzantine. Now he can rest reassured he didn't join the Copts because they do this. Oops, he's muted.
Hold on, with.
Watch this.
Let me see if I can find one.
He can't find it. He won't find it. By the spoiler, he won't find what he's looking for.
It's going to be worth checking out. Trust me. Just give me a moment. Coptic Church. We're talking about canonical standards. There you go. Let's see. Oh, come on. I hate the X search function. Anyway, I'll just talk about it. In the Coptic churches, on their iconostasis, they will have freaking TV screens. They'll have TV screens covering the icons sometimes. Yeah, but I mean, I think that's just apparent. Their theology behind the icon seems much different, much less reverent. And this is evident in the art style, right? This is evident in kind of like the modern art style that you see here, the lack of canonical standards. And they put freaking TV screens over them so that they can have the subtitles of the Divine Liturgy in different languages.
In a Coptic church over the icons.
Yeah. If there's some basis of that, number one, that's not the standard. That's incorrect to do. I agree. There should be a proper reverence. Number two, oh, how evil of us that we want our people to pay attention to the liturgy. I've seen people get mad just because there's the TV in general. Like boo-hoo for us, our faithful participates in the service.
Yeah, right. Like I was gonna bring up this point as well. Is if you can, like, I once visited a, I don't know, I think it was like a church, a Byzantine church or something, just for like fun. I think we just want to look inside, see what's happening. It's just a bunch of people standing and staring. Like, I don't mean to be polemical. Maybe that's not the standard. Maybe that's just what happened at that church. But here, like, would we rather that everyone is worshiping and they know what they worship and they're truly in the spirit of worship, or they're just standing and staring? They don't know what's going on. They're just there to be there. Like, it's just like, what's the point of going to liturgy? What's the liturgy? Liturgia means itself. It's the public worship. It's for the people. If the people aren't there and it's just mindless drones, then there's no point. There's no point in participating in liturgy.
You're right, man.
It's just crazy.
I think like when you have, Buddha and Palamas together, it changes everything.
Yeah, and they have this like weird thing where they're like icons. It's like a latria worship of the icon itself. Like, it's from their council, obviously, because they say there's like a hypostasis in every icon, so they have to kiss it or whatever. It's like they worship the icon itself at that point. And Protestants may actually have a point. Is like, oh, the icons, bro, the icons. You'd never see like us cover up a cross or a Bible, but like when it comes to icons, that's the final stand right there. That's the icons. And this icon looks bad. Look, this guy looks like Jay Dyer, but he's brown, so I don't like him. Like, what's going on? I don't understand. Like, I almost became Eastern Orthodox until this video. I'm for that one commenter who said that. This is my counter comment. So I don't know what's going on. And this one,
spring.
Okay. He's really stacking it on with the ads, bro. Okay, here we go.
Comments. They say you are mean, ortho, bro. You're so mean. because you don't call us Orthodox and you don't think that our martyrs are saints. What do you mean? We're just talking about theological truths, right? That's it. It's you're so mean for not calling us the one true church. What are you talking about? Sorry, we're not all like ecumenists, so we can just pretend that like everybody is the one true church and everybody's dead or saints. I mean, it's not to say that their sacrifice isn't honorable or wasn't the right thing to do or anything. I absolutely respect what these Coptic gentlemen here did by resisting the tyrants in Islam, resisting these terrorists and all of this stuff. We just don't consider them saints. That's all it is. You guys are so mean. You guys are so.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
No, the reason why
it's okay. I mean, he respects them. It's fine, but I think you are. I don't think, Cleve, that you've read anything at all ever to make a distinction or to know what the distinction is between us and you. You don't have any information. You and I kind of think, I don't know you, but clearly from everything you're saying, I think you just rushed into Eastern Orthodoxy because of personality cult.
Yeah, I was gonna say, remember, this isn't him defending himself right now. Right now, he's defending Dyer. What Dyer said.
Yeah, clearly.
We're not saying you guys are mean because you don't recognize them as saints. I don't recognize your martyr saints either, especially the ones you say we killed. Right? That never happened. In the sense of like Flavian, right? Because you guys use this against us, and there's evidence conflicting. We talk about it in a very respectful manner. The problem now is when you say they're terrorists, or that it didn't happen. That's what we're calling out. Well, if you don't recognize them as saints, that's fine. I'll agree with you. There's honorable deaths in this community, that community. But when you say they are identical to Hezbollah martyrs, that's what we recognize as mean.
Exactly. That's exactly the point. I mean, it comes to, okay, we got to defend our actual patriarch, J. Dyer. Like, and if it was anyone else, like, it would be like, I don't agree with that guy. That guy's not my counsel. I don't care. Who cares? But anyway, okay, so let's get to this very, very last part. And I think this just wraps up the entire stream very, very nicely. And let's see. Oh, also one last thing. He mentions how they get mad when we don't do this or we don't do this. So there's instances online where we'll be defending ourselves. So, like, for example, on Twitter, and sometimes it's not good to argue with a fool because the argument will never end. But they say, for example, the cops are dirty, like, stupid people, they're brown, whatever, and they're not Orthodox, and they start telling these people who have no knowledge of the Coptic Orthodox Church. So what are we supposed to do? Sit there with our heads nodding? Yeah, you're right. Let's not respond. Let's not show them the truth. We're all monophysites. We believe Christ is divine only, and the divine nature swallowed the human nature. You're right. We should let you keep slandering us, or should we expose the truth? Jesus only spoke when necessary. So again, I'm not telling everybody go and start bashing Eastern Orthodox. I'm saying we speak when necessary. You guys just speak to speak. Oh, this icon sucks. It looks weird. Okay, that's the difference. Let's go to this last point here.
This would call Saint Emperor Justinian the Great a demon, a heretic, a serpent. Their monks wrote curses for Orthodox in their prayers. That's one thing that's interesting. If you were to read historic Coptic writings, a lot of their polemics are a lot harsher than this fake ecumenist talk today, where they're saying, "Oh, it was just like a misunderstanding of language back then. We weren't actually monophysites. We're going to redefine it. Now we're going to consider ourselves miaphysites. It was a misunderstanding. The language we just couldn't understand or something." Well, if that's the case, if it was just a misunderstanding, then accept Chalcedon, dude. Accept Chalcedon. They know it's a lie. It's not true.
Yeah, like
you are the one saying it's a misunderstanding. We're telling you it's not, and you guys are heretics. We're saying that to you.
Yeah, unfortunately I didn't get the clip where he brings up Daniel calling him like Cleve to Kurdish or something. But it's okay. Like
I called them a million things right now. He can clip it.
Now he's gonna clip it.
That's fine.
Coptic, unhinged Coptic subdeacon calls me out. All right.
I want to add about them cursing us in our prayers. Who has the anathema services on who? That's number one. Number two, you guys might not know this. Y'all know the week they eat cheese right before Lent.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know why they do that?
Sunday. Yeah.
You know historically why they do that?
Because we don't, right?
Exactly. Because the Armenians fasted. Talk about the ones who their whole liturgical life is about curse. You guys are always thinking about us in your services.
Yeah, no. One of the main points J. Dyer, I think Craig brings up is we're the only church that still does anathemas. Okay, so what is this? Like, you're mad that we anathematize you? Like, okay, so we're the true church as well. And this is just a quick thing right here. I addressed all of his points here in just like single lines. It doesn't take much. Like, I kind of memed on it, but first of all, he calls us EO grifters. So our priests pretend to be Orthodox. No, none of our priests pretend to be Eastern Orthodox. So Abuna Lazarus never does. No one, you'll never find another priest doing this. And in statistics, it shows that Oriental Orthodox churches are growing at a faster percentage than Eastern Orthodox churches, just so they get like, even angrier. Some here as well, when he says Coptic ecumenists. So, okay, say there's a few Coptic ecumenists. That's great. All of your synods, all of your current patriarchs are mega ecumenists. And if you bring this up to them, they'll rage pretty bad. Like their patriarch Bartholomew, that they basically like just don't talk about. He's extreme. He prayed with the Catholic Pope.
CIA.
Yeah, and that's what J. Dyer says. They're all infiltrated by. So all of your hierarchy is infiltrated by the CIA. What's left? What's left? It's just the layman. It's up to the layman. So you guys are basically Protestants. Like, I don't understand. Like, that's what it leads to. Yeah, and it's just a joke. So I think that's basically the end of it. Like, if you guys wanted to add anything else, feel free to. But that's it. Like, that was a lot, and I appreciate, like, I kind of dragged you guys on here with me, but
thank you.
I wanted to address this because I see it too much online. There's too much of this, so I just feel free to take screenshots. I'll link it to the video itself. Use the slide as you wish, and clip Daniel's ad homs as much as you wish, and Agan saying that the Eastern Orthodox don't have any C's left. So, but yeah, thank you again. You guys,
let's make a big thing out of the Buddha stuff, guys. And then I like the play on words you did. Sub to Deacon Dan. I like that.
Emphasis on sub.
Yeah, no, and then apostolic orthodoxy, physiognomically incorrect. You
guys remember when that happened? And then ICANN posted a picture, this really old drawing of like a Roman Egyptian, like Egyptian in antiquity, was on some kind of wall or something. They got the picture.
That looks kind of like Agan.
It looked identical to Agan. It's Agan's great grandfather.
It's too kawaii. It's too kawaii.
It's too kawaii. Yeah, that's funny too, because the Byzantine, like, I did a short on this and it did really well on some platforms, but it was literally showing that even regular Byzantine art is big eyes and anime like. So they just don't know how to read. They don't know their tradition. They don't know anything about what came before them. They just like assume and say and bless and like, oh, okay, you're Eastern Orthodox, you're Rokor specifically, you're a diorite, 3 conditions satisfied. Doesn't matter anything else. But yeah, that's basically it. Thank you to Deacon Mehret, who also hopped on and had to leave. But yeah, I appreciate you guys, and I hope I see a lot from you guys coming up soon. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you for having us on.